Chapter 277. Some people say that happiness is not because you get too much but because you care too little. Fang Yan had long wanted to drag the guy who said this out and beat him up. It was easy to say, but if someone took off your pants and exposed your butt in front of everyone, would you not care and pretend that nothing had happened? I hate it when people act cheap. Fang Yan felt someone patting his butt. It was the wind. Fang Yan felt someone pulling his arm. He turned around abruptly and saw Chiba Kori standing timidly behind him. She was helpless and pitiful. She said, "Mr. Fang, please, don't beat my father anymore, okay?" Fang Yan felt a headache coming on. When men were fighting, women should not be watching at the scene, should they? He kicked Chiba Kori and said, "Your father wanted to kill me, so it's natural for me to kill him now. Am I right?" "Yes." Chiba Kori nodded. "But he has already lost. He has already admitted defeat to you. Mr. Fang, my father is a proud man like you. He would rather die than admit defeat. However, he admitted defeat to you. Can you let him go? Don't humiliate him like this anymore. Although he was defeated by you, please give him a little bit of a martial artist's dignity. All martial artists should be respected by others. Isn't that the case? You said in class that anyone who becomes the most powerful person in his own field and makes a special contribution should be respected by others, even if that person is a thief." Fang Yan could not help but nod and said, "You're right. I am indeed an iron-blooded man who would rather die than admit defeat. Otherwise, I wouldn't have accepted your father's challenge. I can see that your father is like me. No, he seems to have more backbone than me." Chiba Kori was overjoyed and said, "Mr. Fang, you agree to let my father go?" "I'm going to kill him and let him have what he wants," Fang Yan said firmly. "I know what people like us really need." As he spoke, he slashed his saber at Chiba's neck. Thump. Chiba Sun threw herself onto her father and used her frail body to shield Fang Yan. She cried, "Mr. Fang, I beg you, let him go. He's just a pitiful old man who failed. He can't go back. He'll only be criticized and mocked by countless people when he returns. He has nothing left. He can't die because he's the husband of a woman and the father of 2 children. Mr. Fang, I know you're a kind-hearted man. You've never taken the initiative to hurt anyone. You've always been passively accepting challenges from others. You're refined, knowledgeable, and have a strong patriotism. In fact, you and my father are the same kind of person." Chiba Sun turned to look at Fang Yan and begged, "Mr. Fang, please have pity on this old man. Have pity on his daughter. Let him go, please." Chiba Hyunbu's face was swollen and he was covered in blood. He didn't look like the god of swords anymore. However, he still maintained a calm and peaceful attitude. He reached out to stroke his daughter's hair and said with a smile, "Chiba Sun, thank you for everything you've done for me. This is the first time you've seen me fight with someone and I've lost. As your father, I feel so ashamed." "No, father, you're not ashamed. Not at all," Chiba Sun said as she hugged Chiba Hyunbu. "In my heart, you're not only the Japanese god of swords but also my idol. As a father, I know you're the best father in the world. You've never criticized me or forced me to do anything. You've given me all your gentleness and love. It's the happiest thing in my life to be your daughter." "Silly child, it's because you're my daughter," Chiba Hyunbu said with a smile. He twitched the corner of his mouth and a large pool of blood flowed out. Fang Yan watched the scene quietly. He really couldn't bring himself to do it. Just as Chiba Sun said to the former Japanese god of swords, Chiba Hyunbu, begging for mercy was more difficult than dying in battle. He gave up on the competition and lay there allowing people to beat and scold him. In fact, he was already prepared to die. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thrown that pebble at Fang Yan's fringed underwear. It was reasonable for Fang Yan to beat him to death for such a provocation. Even the old guys who were watching from the sidelines wouldn't say anything because it was natural for martial artists to fight back when they were attacked. However, Chiba Sun begged for mercy on his father's behalf, which made him feel worse than slapping Chiba Hyunbu dozens of times in public. It was a great humiliation for the Japanese god of swords to rely on his daughter to save his life. However, even so, he didn't reprimand Chiba Sun or thank her for what she did. He only regretted that he couldn't win the competition in front of his daughter. He was the sword god of success and he was also success's father. Seeing that Fang Yan wasn't willing to agree, Chiba Hyunbu knelt in front of Fang Yan and hugged his calf. "Mr. Fang, please let him go this time, okay? I'll agree to any condition you want. I know you're angry and I know you're angry. Please take it out on me. I'm his daughter and I'm willing to take all the revenge for him. Fang Yan looked at Chiba Sun and asked, if I was defeated by your father, would you plead for me? Yes, Chiba Sun answered without hesitation. I was kidnapped by a sister on my way here. She said that if you're in danger, I won't be able to keep my life. I'm happy to hear that and I'm happy to be kidnapped by her. Seeing Phoenix walking over, Fang Yan knew that she wasn't lying. He looked at Chiba Hyunbu, who was lying on the ground, and said, if I fail and plead for you, would you let me go? You know the answer, Chiba Hyunbu said. Why do you need to ask others? Yes. I know the answer, Fang Yan said. I know you won't let me go. You'll definitely swing your sword and kill me. You see, this kind of thing is really difficult. If I let you go, it won't be fair to me. If I kill you, it'll seem like I'm heartless. Why don't you kill yourself? Chiba Hyunbu laughed and said, I won't kill myself. How shameless. Fang Yan was so angry that he was about to stomp his feet. *T Japanese god of swords. He's completely shameless. How could someone like him become a grandmaster? He couldn't imagine how he would be worshipped by countless people in the future. Slap. Fang Yan's but was slapped by someone. Phoenix stood behind him and said, are you an exhibitionist? How long are you going to stand here with your butt bare? Those seniors in the dark are here to watch you fight with the Japanese god of swords, not to see you show off your body. I'm not doing it for them to see, Fang Yan said embarrassedly. I'm mainly doing it for you, Fang Yingying. Fang Yingying responded and trotted to Fang Yan. Junior Martial Uncle, I knew you would win. Find me my clothes. Fang Yan interrupted his flattery and said. On the eve of the battle, he took off a black robe. Fang Yingying turned around and ran. He really did find the black robe that was still intact. Give me the clothes. Phoenix reached out to take it. Give me the clothes. An even colder voice came from behind. Fang Yingxiong looked at Phoenix, who was in front of him, and then at Yi Ro, who was walking over from behind. His fat face turned bitter and he said awkwardly, both of you want it. Who should I give it to? Give it to me. Phoenix and Yi Ro shouted at the same time. Phoenix saw Yi Ro and Yi Ro naturally saw Phoenix. The two women's eyes met and there was a fierce electric current between them. They were old acquaintances, but they didn't have a good relationship. In terms of feelings, Fang Yan and Phoenix had a better relationship. Because every time Fang Yan was beaten like a dog by Yi Ro, he would run to Phoenix for comfort. Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yan for help, but Fang Yan pretended not to see it. He stared at Chiba and said, brother, do me a favor and stab yourself, okay? Who doesn't encounter difficulties in the martial arts world? Next time you are in trouble, I can help you. Fang Yingying threw the clothes into the air and shouted, whoever grabs it gets it. Slap. Fang Yingxiong was kicked in the face. The kick made him dizzy and confused. He felt like he was about to fall to the ground. Bang. He was kicked in the stomach and his body rolled on the ground like a ball. Phoenix sneered and said, I told you to give it to me, so give it to me. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Don't play tricks with me. You're courting death, Yi Ro said in an unfriendly tone. Fang Haohen was so scared that he trembled all over. He wanted to hide his tall body in the crack of the stone. The black robe fell to the ground, but Phoenix and Yi Ro were unwilling to bend down to pick it up. How could such a cold woman do such a thing? Fang Yan looked at Phoenix and Yi Ro, sighed and shouted, Fang Haohen. No one answered. Fang Haohen lay next to Fang Yingying, pretending to be dead. His face was still smeared with the blood he borrowed from Fang Yingying's face. Fang Yan looked at Phoenix and Yi Ro and said, can you help me pick up the clothes? Neither Phoenix nor Yi Ro answered. Chibakori looked up at Fang Yan, then at Phoenix and Yi Ro. She hurried to pick up the black robe on the ground and brought it to Fang Yan. Fang Yan covered himself with the black robe and fastened the belt. He immediately felt a sense of security. Standing naked in front of so many people, he was really a little uncomfortable. Fang Yan looked down at Chibakori and said, what should I do with you? Chibakori's eyes were suddenly filled with anger. He jumped up and threw himself at Fang Yan. Fang Yan punched and sent Chibakori flying. At the same time, a row of people in black who could fly suddenly appeared in the sky above the valley. They raised their biological guns and shot at Fang Yan. Boom! A large crater appeared where Fang Yan had been standing. Chapter 278. The attack was too sudden and the enemy's weapons were too powerful. They wore flight suits and floated in the air, appearing in the sky above the Grand Canyon. They were silent and it was impossible to guard against them. What was more frightening was their weapons, which looked like small submachine guns. A silver light bullet was shot towards Fang Yan. When the light bullet hit the hard rock, it actually smashed a huge hole in the rock. If someone were to stand there, they would probably shatter into pieces just like those stones. Not even their dregs could be found. These people came and went like ghosts. They were equipped with advanced equipment, and they used a killer move as soon as they appeared. This made Fang Yan extremely angry because from the weapons they used and the way they did things, he could determine the enemy's identity: the military armory. Only the military armory could do something like this. Were these bastards going to fight to the death with him? I eliminated evil for the people, won glory for the country, and look so cute. What right do you have to do this to me? Before Fang Yan could roar in anger, the second shell flew towards him. Fang Yan quickly rolled and ran forward with all his might. Because the area of effect of the bomb was too large, and after the explosion, there would be green corrosive substances splashing everywhere. If he ran a little slower, it might blow off a leg and tear off a piece of skin. Fang Yan had just experienced a fierce battle. He was exhausted and seriously injured. He really couldn't take such a heavy injury. Most importantly, these people who used Shadan were not stupid at all. On the contrary, they were quite smart. More than a dozen people in black lined up in the sky, each holding a black submachine gun and shooting towards the top of One Sword Peak. They cooperated well, and the shooting frequency was also carefully planned. If the top of One Sword Peak was described as a large square array, then 2 black-clothed men would shoot the silver bullets at the first square, and then the other 2 black-clothed men would shoot the silver bullets at the second square. The third and fourth groups would do the same. Each square was the maximum explosion range of the bomb. When the first group finished shooting, the second group would take over, the third group would be responsible for reloading, the fourth group would shoot without mistakes, and the fifth group would shoot accurately. Their artillery fire blocked the entire One Sword Peak. Not even a mouse could escape. This was an extermination operation to make Fang Yan and everyone on One Sword Peak stay. Boom, boom, boom. The sounds of explosions rang out incessantly. After a round of artillery fire, the summit of the One Sword Peak was blasted into countless craters. It was like the surface of the moon photographed by a satellite. When the first shell was about to hit the ground, Fang Yan sent Chiba Hajime flying. Chiba Hajime was quickly carried away by Phoenix. This bandit was quite attentive to his hostage. It had always been the gangsters who let the hostages die for them. This was the first time he had seen a gangster risk his life to save a hostage. The two of them had run into the shadows, but it wasn't safe there either. Gentle picked up the stone and threw it at the black figure in the sky. If it was someone else, it wouldn't be a big deal if they smashed it. Trying to use a small stone to shoot down an expert with an aircraft in the air was undoubtedly a dream. However, if the person who threw the stone was Yiro, the situation would be different. Yiro attacked with hatred. Her strength was astonishing. In her hands, a stone thrown out was no different from a shell shot by the men in black with a submachine gun. It was just that there were no explosions or special effects. Because she was too fast and the stone was flying too fast, no one could hear the sound of the stone flying until it reached the target. Bang! The stone hit the black-clothed man's body. The man screamed and died tragically. There was a big hole in his chest, which was wearing a special bulletproof vest, and the bones in his chest were all broken. The submachine gun in the hands of the man in black stopped firing. His body was carried by the aircraft and drifted in the sky like a ghost without a master. Everyone disperse and be careful. Seeing that one of his team members was killed by a stone, the captain of the flight team warned in a low voice and gave the order. The black-clothed men immediately broke up their formation and headed towards the summit of One Sword Peak in pairs. With another round of artillery fire, they would be able to blast the entire One Sword Peak into a wasteland. After Yiro threw the first stone, she didn't wait for its final result. When the man in black screamed before he died, she had already picked up 2 more stones and threw them at the other 2 men in black in the air. Burst fire. Bang. Only one sound was made, but 2 people were hit at the same time. One's head was smashed by the stone and blood splattered everywhere. The other one was even more unlucky. His armory was hit by the stone. Boom! The body of the man in black exploded in the air. Countless pieces of flesh and blood flew in the air. The captain of the flight team quickly dodged, but his back was still hit by something. His back was the flight bag of the aircraft, so it helped him block some of the attacks. However, this still made the captain furious. He shouted, "Kill them all, kill them all." As he spoke, he held the submachine gun and fired at Yiro's position. He saw how powerful Yiro was and knew that she was the culprit who caused them to lose 3 of their fighters. In the blink of an eye, they lost 3 trained pilots. This made him feel like his heart was bleeding. He only had these few good seats, so he couldn't give them up so easily. Otherwise, his position as the captain would be over, and he would be dead when he returned. Hearing the captain's angry roar, the other team members desperately rushed to the top of the mountain. Idiot! Every time a team member died, a red star would be destroyed on their silver shield. This was just the beginning, and they had already destroyed 3 red stars. This meant that 3 of their team members had left the team forever. They were both angry and afraid. No one wanted to be the next unlucky person. If they didn't want to be killed, they could only kill. If they ruthlessly killed the other party and completed the mission as quickly as before, they would be safe. Rumble, rumble, gunfire rained down, and the rumbling sound was endless. On the viewing platform, the audience who didn't know what was going on looked at the top of the mountain in confusion and said, "What's going on? Why do I hear thunder?" It's not thunder, it's Tai Chi Master Fong Yen and the Japanese sword god sparring. They are using their ultimate moves at the same time. One is using the Tai Chi turtle wave technique, the other is using the Japanese ninja technique. There's someone in the sky, look, there's someone in the sky. Laojun Pavilion. Jiang Zhulu raised his binoculars and looked, and his expression became ferocious. He looked at Lu Qingming and Lan Shanggu, who were sitting in front of him, and said, "Brothers, looks like we have to leave first." "What's going on?" Lan Shanggu took Jiang Zhuliu's binoculars and looked, then said, "Someone wants to kill us all? Don't tell me they want to put shit on us 3 brothers? What a good move." Jiang Zhulu smiled and said, "Those people are so ruthless, we can't stay and clean up their mess." Lu Qingming also took the binoculars. This was the first time he looked at the top of the mountain with binoculars. After a few glances, he said, "Who are those people? They're so ruthless. They didn't just want to kill Fong Yen, right? But since it's like this, it's probably too late for us to leave now, right?" "Who knew this would happen?" Lan Shanggu smiled bitterly. "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have come." Jiang Zhulu looked at Lan Shanggu with a smile and said, "Brother Shanggu, if Fong Yen really couldn't go back today, wouldn't it be easier for you to do business? Lu Chaoga isn't an easy person to negotiate with." Lan Shanggu shook his head and said, "If Fong Yen died, Lu Chaoga would be a toothless tiger. Other than having a fierce temper, what's the difference between him and a big cat?" Jiang Zhulu smiled and said. Lan Shanggu looked at Jiang Zhulu and said, "Even if Fong Yen can't go back tonight, isn't there an even bigger tiger standing behind Lu Chaoga? That tiger is a real tiger. That tiger is too far away from us. Unless Lu Chaoga moves his company to Beijing, as long as he stays in Huaqing, he can forget about leaving us brothers to get rich. This is the rule, no one can come." Jiang Zhulu, Lu Qingming, and Lan Shanggu looked at each other and laughed. A new alliance of benefits was formed. At the very least, at this moment, everyone present seemed sincere enough. If something happened to Fong Yen, Jiang Zhulu, Lan Shanggu, and Lu Qingming would all be suspects. If Fong Yen were to die, it would be the end of everything. Other than Fong Yen himself, no one else would come to seek justice for the group of dead people on the mountaintop. However, if Fong Yen didn't die, then things would be even worse. Who would Fong Yen suspect? They wanted to leave, but they couldn't. If they left in a hurry, wouldn't it make people suspect that they had a guilty conscience? Smart people like to complicate things, so what they had to do was to simplify things as much as possible. Jiang Zhulu clicked his tongue and said with some pity, "This fireworks show is even more exciting than the battle just now. It's a pity that there's no wine to accompany the meal. What a pity." Jiang Zhulu had already finished all the wine he brought, and the show was over. It was time to leave, but he didn't think that there would be another competition now. Clearly he wasn't satisfied. Lu Qingming thoughtfully looked at the sky above his head and said, 9 out of 10 things don't go as one wishes. Who can be perfect? I always feel that we have enough. If we are too greedy, we will be punished by heaven. Look, isn't there a perfect example above us?" Chapter 279. The top of One Sword Peak became hell on earth. After numerous rounds of indiscriminate gunfire, as well as the green liquids splashing all over the place. There wasn't a single place left intact on the mountain top. Rocks were broken, trees were burnt, weeds were blackened, insects and birds were all dead. From above there weren't any signs of life at all. Some of the dried wood was being burned, letting out crackling noises. This was the only sound at the top of One Sword Peak. "Captain, are they all dead?" a team member asked through their helmet communicator. They originally only wanted to kill Fang Yan alone, but his resistance was so intense that they were afraid of being crushed to death by the rocks, so they madly fired at the top of One Sword Peak until they emptied all their weapons. They had lost their minds just now. According to their training, they weren't allowed to use up any more weapons after killing their target. They were supposed to keep at least 20% of their weapons for emergencies. This was the first time they'd ever done something like flattening an entire mountain in one go. Who told them to face a bunch of freaks that could fly around and shoot down airplanes with rocks? It should be, The captain cautiously scanned his surroundings, then finally made his decision and said, "They're all dead." The captain gestured with his hand and ordered, "Retreat." The team members received their orders and prepared to dive down. At this point, something unexpected happened. A rock whistled towards the back of a black-clothed pilot. The pilot was shocked and raised his shield to block it. Clang! With a dull thud, the black-clothed pilot and his shield were both sent flying by the rock. It wasn't until he flipped a few times in the air that he screamed in pain and fell down into the abyss. "Hurry up and retreat," the captain issued an emergency order. "There's clearly no one here, so why are there still rocks flying towards them?" Following that, a catastrophic scene unfolded. Dozens of rocks were flying towards them. Not just rocks but also knives, iron lotus seeds, leaves, iron thorns, all sorts of strange objects were flying towards them. "Wait a minute, what's with that string of prayer beads?" "Captain, my aircraft was damaged. Retreat, there's a lot of them. I need to replenish my weapons, the team members screamed out in pain. There were constantly members who were shot down or killed by the flying objects. They had no weapons to fight back. They wanted to escape, but the stones and hidden weapons followed them. The captain opened his mouth and was about to issue a new order when he suddenly found a rope around his neck. Panicking, he piloted the aircraft and prepared to escape. As soon as the aircraft flew over the canyon, a woman in black jumped up with a whoosh. She stepped on her shoulders like a heroine who was riding a flying beast to fight with humans. Yi Wen's short hair danced in the wind. She tied the whip around the captain's neck, and with a slight lift of the whip, the captain had to change direction according to her wishes. The captain felt extremely humiliated, but the rope was so tight that he couldn't breathe, let alone make a forceful counterattack. He took off his leather gloves and quietly reached into his pocket. There was still the last silver bullet. The reason why he kept it was to use it to perish together with the enemy. Now it really came in handy. His arm went numb and the silver bullet was in the hands of that hateful woman. Yi Wen squatted on the aircraft behind the captain holding the silver bullet and asked, "As long as you press this red button, the bomb will explode. Is that right?" The captain's eyes were filled with fear, but he was unwilling to answer Yi Wen. Yi Wen took off the captain's helmet and said, "Let's do an experiment." She pressed the red button and stuffed the silver bullet into the captain's mouth. The rope around his neck disappeared and the captain felt a lot more relaxed. Even his breathing became normal. He suddenly felt a little hot in his mouth as if his mouth was getting bigger and bigger. Isn't that my chin?" Boom! The silver bullet exploded in the captain's mouth. The exploded body and the aircraft he was carrying turned into pieces. The entire flying team was annihilated. Some people weren't weak but they were unlucky. They allowed Fang Yan to fight to the death with the Japanese sword god Chiba Toyotomi. If Chiba Toyotomi killed Fang Yan, they would retreat quietly as if they had never appeared. If Chiba was injured by Fang Yan or both sides were injured, they would kill and annihilate them when they were at their weakest and most fatigued. What other heaven-defying things could these two patients do? With the help of the most advanced aircraft, they were equipped with the most lethal firearms. With a round of artillery bombardment, even a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal would be smashed into pieces by them. However, they didn't expect that because of the duel between Fang Yan and Chiba, some Lingnan masters and hermits who cultivated nearby all came to watch. There were so many masters on Solitary Sword Peak that it was enough to hold a martial arts circle convention. They used submachine guns to kill Fang Yan, which was equivalent to killing all those masters at the same time. These masters were more arrogant and unruly than the other. How could they be willing to be bullied for no reason? It was only natural for them to fight back when they got the chance. Therefore, the people in the arsenal and the people behind them didn't expect that they would offend such a group of lunatics and get such a miserable result. God will take care of those who are despicable, Fang Yan thought happily in his heart. If they weren't so despicable, they could still be good friends. At this time, all kinds of strange people crawled out from all kinds of unexpected places. There was a bald monk, a Taoist priest in a layman's robe, a one-eared fatso, a handsome middle-aged man in a black robe, and a charming girl. Yi Gentle was fine, and so were Phoenix and Chiba Sun. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan also crawled out from the corner, but they looked too disheveled. Of course, there were so many masters present that all looked disheveled. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan trotted over and asked with concern, "Junior Martial Uncle, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Fang Yan said with a smile. "I didn't even have time to make a move before those guys were all killed," Fang Haohan said with a smile. "Hee, they brought this upon themselves. Good people like us will naturally be blessed by God and live a peaceful life," Fang Yingying said with a proud smile. Chiba Sun looked around for her father. Phoenix walked over and said, "These people had a good idea. Unfortunately, their luck wasn't that good. It's fine if they wanted to kill me, but they even bullied my idol seniors. This is too much," Fang Yan shouted with a face full of anger. "Arsenal, I will not live under the same sky as you guys. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a man." Phoenix glanced at Fang Yan and said, "All right, stop pretending to be angry. You're so happy that you can't even close your mouth, right? Didn't you shout out the name of the arsenal to let those old guys who were bullied hold a grudge against them? Now you've achieved your goal, haven't you?" Fang Yan secretly glanced around and whispered to Phoenix, "Don't tell anyone. That arsenal is too powerful, I can't deal with it alone. I have no reason not to do it if I can make a few enemies for them. Besides, they really want to kill everyone on the top of this mountain. I'm not lying. I won't say that. As for whether others will say it or not, I don't know. They have a strong sense of justice." Phoenix glanced at Yi Ro, who was standing at the side, and sneered. "I don't talk nonsense with people." Yi Ro looked at Phoenix's provocative eyes. "If I'm not satisfied with someone, I'll just beat them up. What made you so arrogant that you think you're invincible? More and more people are defeated by me. Others might be afraid of you, Yi Ro, but I'm not. You're the number one in Neijiang, aren't you just bragging? If you're not convinced, you can try. Anytime, I say." Fang Yan wanted to mediate. "Today is a big day, there's no need to be so contradictory, right?" "Shut up," Phoenix and Yi Ro shouted at the same time. Fang Yan looked up at the sky, a little helpless in his eyes. The bald monk spat at the sky, strode to Fang Yan and shouted, "Fang family's boy, eat my fist. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in such a sorry state. I've long been annoyed by you." The Taoist priest dressed in layman's clothes walked up to Fang Yan and bowed with one hand clasped in front of him, saying, "I'm Qin Yun, Layman Weed's good-for-nothing disciple. Congratulations to Layman Fang for winning the first battle and defeating the Japanese sword god. Qin Yun has benefited a lot from today's battle, so I want to set a date with Layman Fang so that I can learn your godly skill. I'm Kai Zhonghong, the king of gossip, who questioned why the Japanese sword god didn't challenge you. I originally planned to challenge him after the Japanese defeated you, but since you're the big winner of this match, I can only challenge you. Do you think we should continue fighting today, or should we set a date for another duel?" Kai Zhonghong, get lost, I've already booked. Seeing a group of experts clamoring for a duel with Fang Yan, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan's expressions were a little awkward, and they couldn't help but want to stand further away from Fang Yan. Fang Yan held his head and shouted, "Ouch, I'm a little dizzy. Heroes, help me, I think I've lost too much blood, I'm a little anemic." Before Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan could escape, Fang Yan's body had already fallen into their arms. The two looked at each other, wanting to cry but having no tears. Chapter 280. When Fang Yan opened his eyes, he heard Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan chatting. Junior Martial Uncle is indeed Junior Martial Uncle. He's even so professional at pretending to be dead. I can't help but admire him. He was afraid that he would be surrounded by those experts he offended on One Sword Peak and take revenge, so he pretended to be dead and hasn't woken up yet. This was Fang Yingying's voice. That's right. If the two of us pretended to sleep for 1 or 2 hours at most, we'd be alive and kicking after everyone has left. How could we be like Junior Marshall Uncle who slept for 2 days and 2 nights and still isn't willing to wake up? Do you think Junior Marshall Uncle really fainted at that time? I suspect that it was definitely fainting. This was Fong Haohen's voice. Fong Yan was shocked. He actually slept for 2 days. At that time he just didn't want to accept the challenge from Gossip King Weed Hermit's disciple and the old monks group, who would want to fight to the death with them for no reason. His occupation was a teacher and his primary responsibility was to educate people. Fighting and killing was uncivilized. Isn't that obvious? I asked him if he had any problems before and he said he was fine. Gossip King Weed Hermit's disciple fainted as soon as these people came to challenge him. It's obvious that he was acting. Fong Yingying said confidently. It's not like you don't know Junior Marshall Uncle's temperament. It's not like he's only done this kind of thing once or twice. But Junior Marshall Uncle's injuries are really serious. Even Phoenix and Miss Yi said so. Tell me, does Phoenix like Junior Marshall Uncle or not? These 2 days she's been brewing medicine and wiping his body. She doesn't treat herself as an outsider at all. At that time on One Sword Peak, Miss Yi didn't want us to fight the Thousand Leaves army. She said that even if the Yi family's people were all dead, there's no need for us to die. Is there something we don't know? Yes, I've heard that too. Fong Yingying lowered his voice. I've been thinking about this sentence for the past 2 days. Say, could it be that Miss Yi is deeply in love with our Junior Marshall Uncle and has already regarded herself as the Fong family's daughter-in-law? Impossible, right? Junior Marshall Uncle was beaten black and blue every time he fought with Miss Yi. He couldn't get out of bed for more than half a month. What kind of daughter-in-law would beat her future husband like that? Fong Yingying thought about it seriously and said, it's not impossible. Think about it, Miss Yi's skills are so good and she has violent tendencies. Whenever she has something to do she'll definitely find someone to beat up. Take the inner world for example, how many people can be a match for Miss Yi? Apart from Junior Marshall Uncle, who else could be worthy of her? A young disciple who could exchange blows with her and not be beaten to death by her? What was that sentence again? Flirting and scolding is love. Don't fight or scold. Maybe Miss Yi is in such a situation now. Fong Haohen sighed softly and said, does Miss Yi want a husband or a human punching bag? Junior Marshall Uncle is so pitiful. Fong Yingying also sighed. Fong Yan listened and gritted his teeth. He asked fiercely, who are you saying is pitiful? Junior Marshall Uncle is. Fong Yingying was about to answer, Junior Marshall Uncle is pitiful, when he suddenly felt something was wrong. His fat face instantly changed color. With red eyes, he rushed to Fong Yan on the bed and said excitedly, Junior Marshall Uncle is finally awake. That's great, that's really great. Junior Marshall Uncle, do you know that you have been unconscious for 2 days? If you don't wake up, I don't know how to live. Fong Yan glanced at Fong Yingying with disdain and said, what do you mean by don't know how to live? Do you want to eat stewed noodles or lamb chop for your next meal? Junior Marshall Uncle, you don't know. I haven't eaten much in the 2 days you were unconscious. Fong Haohen has no appetite like me. Look at how hungry he is. Fong Haohen nodded repeatedly. The skin on his cheeks was like bones. He looked really hungry. Fong Haohen won't be so hungry if he ate less glass shards. Fong Yan said snappily. Go get me a glass of water. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen ran outside at the same time. Fong Yingying, stay. Fong Yan shouted. Fong Yingying's face was full of bitterness. When he turned around his face was already full of smiles. He said, Junior Marshall Uncle, do you have something to ask me? What happened after I fainted? Fong Yan asked aloud. Junior Marshall Uncle really doesn't know? Seeing that Fong Yan was about to lose his temper again, Fong Yingying quickly said, of course Junior Marshall Uncle doesn't know. Because Junior Marshall Uncle really fainted at that time. Seeing you faint, those people naturally dispersed. That's it? Fong Yan asked curiously. Not yet. Fong Yingying said. Fong Yingying, I don't have much strength right now. If you wait for me to ask any more questions, the first thing I do when I get up will be to beat you into meat paste. Fong Yingying was shocked and quickly said, after Junior Marshall Uncle fainted, Qin Yun said goodbye and left. When he left, he said he would come back to fight with Junior Marshall Uncle in a month. That bald monk snatched the second place and said he would come back to fight with Junior Marshall Uncle 2 months later so that Junior Marshall Uncle could recuperate and not be slapped to death by him. Kai Zhonghong, the king of gossip, was ranked third. He said don't lose to Qin Yun and the bald monk. Otherwise, if he challenged you again, it would be a pity. Fang Yan's eyes were dull and said, I fainted and they still didn't let me go. That's what I said at the time. Fang Yingying said. Seeing Fang Yan's eyes looking at him, Fang Yingying added, in the end, I was slapped on the head by that bald monk. I wasn't convinced. I originally wanted to fight him for 300 rounds. Stop bragging. You couldn't even last 3 rounds. Fang Yan said. Fang Yingying grinned and said, great minds think alike. When I saw that I couldn't beat him, I didn't take the initiative to hit him. Can someone like you be considered a hero? My name is Hero. Fang Haohan brought the water over. After drinking a large cup of warm water, Fang Yan felt much better. He asked Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan to help him up. Seeing the gauze wrapped around his chest, he knew it was the work of a girl. He said, this is from the Phoenix Bun? Yes. The Phoenix cleaned your body, stitched your wounds, applied ointment for you. She also helped you shave and dig out your earwax. Where's Yi Ro? Fang Yan asked. When Miss Yi came, the Phoenix was cleaning your body, stitching your wounds, applying ointment, shaving your beard and digging out your earwax. She probably felt that she couldn't find anything to do, so she turned around and left. Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, why? Why what? Fang Yingying asked in confusion. What do you know? Fang Yan shouted angrily. Everything was done by the Phoenix. What did you 2 idiots do? Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan looked at each other. Fang Haohan said bitterly, we're too stupid. That's why we can't do anything. We can only sit there and watch over Junior Marshal Uncle. No wonder people say that stupid people have stupid luck. However, some people are really stupid. Some people are just pretending to be stupid. Knock knock knock. Fang Yingying went forward and gently knocked on the door. Creak. The wooden door of the small courtyard was pulled open. Qing Yin saw Fang Yan, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan standing at the door. He asked cautiously, what do you want? Qing Yin's Huaxia language was still not good. It took a lot of effort to understand what he was saying. Fang Yan waved his hand to tell Qing Yin not to be nervous. He said with a smile, I'm here to see your master. Qing Yin hesitated. A man's voice came from behind. Qing Yin, an important guest is here. Invite the guest in. Qing Yin stepped to the side and made an inviting gesture. Chiba Shinobu stood in the courtyard. He was wearing a wide-sleeved robe. His skin was fair. He didn't change much from when they first met. However, Fang Yan could still feel the gloomy and dejected aura from him. He had lost something very important. Domineering. The sword god of Japan, the #1 martial artist in Japan, had lost his domineering aura. This was obviously a very regrettable thing. Fang Yan stood in front of Chiba Shinobu with a trace of pity on his face. Chiba Shinobu laughed. He's just a loser. Why are you troubled, Fang Yan-san? You didn't lose in swordsmanship. You lost in the way of the world, Fang Yan said. Japan is still too small. It will limit your vision and mind, which is not good for understanding swordsmanship. This kind of thing can't be changed by one person. It also can't be changed by the power of a country. Japan once had the chance to rise to the sky in one step, but it failed. Failure is inevitable, Fang Yan said with a smile. You've come to Huaxia. You've stepped on the land of Huaxia. You've seen it with your own eyes and heard it with your own ears. You should know how cohesive and hardworking this nation is. Do you know why we're called the descendants of the dragon? Because our ancestors had such expectations for us. They hoped that all of us would be like dragons. One dragon can turn the world upside down. What kind of power and miracles can 3 billion dragons exert? You'll see it. People all over the world will see it. Chiba gently shook his head and said with a smile, Fang Yan, don't tell me how big your country is and don't tell me how outstanding your people are. The East Asians are just as outstanding and they work just as hard. But I'm still not optimistic about its future. The reason why I'm not optimistic is that Japan lacks young people like you. What they lack is not one but a group, Chiba Shinobu said with a sad expression. If we also have a group of young people like you who are brimming with talent, hot-blooded, fearless of death, and brave to meet any challenge, our future will be better than it is now. Unfortunately, we don't. If the young are rich, the country will be rich. If the young are strong, the country will be strong. This is the most precious asset of a country. Fang Yen smiled and said, Mr. Chiba, thank you. Thank you for saving me. You have brilliant swordsmanship and the heart of a warrior that matches it. Chiba Shinobu looked at Fang Yen and said, Fang Yen, promise me one thing. I can't change my nationality, Fang Yen said with a serious expression. Chapter 281. Chiba Hattori's face and forehead were full of scars. Although they had been treated with medicine, they were not specially bandaged with gauze. Therefore those wounds were like little red flowers growing in the wild grass, looking particularly delicate and dazzling. Fang Yan's face was also injured, but his face was often injured so the people around him were used to it. However, when Chiba Hattori's face was injured, everyone felt that it was particularly funny and strange. The head of the Japanese Ministry of War was the Japanese sword god. When he first came to Huaxia, he wore a white, wide-sleeved robe every day like an immortal. At first glance, one could tell that he was a high-quality uncle with knowledge, quality, and wealth. If those love-struck girls saw him, they would definitely yell, "Come to my bowl." However, it didn't take long for him to be beaten up by Fang Yen. It was sad to think of it. Qing Yin refused to leave and stood behind Chiba Hattori. If Fang Yen dared to do anything, he would rush up and be beaten up by Fang Yen. Chiba Hattori also came out and he looked even more embarrassed. His eyes were still purple-black and there were several scars on his forehead. One of his arms was tied with a bamboo board. When he walked, he couldn't help but look at his crotch, because Fang Haohen had kicked it there. His mouth was puffed up like a frog that might jump up and eat insects at any time. He stared at Fang Haohen fiercely and hatefully. Obviously, Fang Haohen had replaced Fang Yan's position and become his most hated enemy in his mind. Hearing Fang Yan's refusal, Chiba Hattori looked stunned and said, "Why do you think I would make such a request?" Fang Yan looked at Chiba Hattori and said, "People always tell me that a person will pursue what he lacks. You said that your country lacks talented and hot-blooded young people like me, who are not afraid of death and dare to face any challenge. I'm worried that you will ask me to change my nationality and enter Japan. I know that there are some people who gave up their Huaxia nationality to work for you because they participated in your talent introduction program. However, this group of people will never include me." Fang Yan's memory was still very good. He repeated the words that others had praised him without missing a word. His laughter was clear and bright, like the cry of a crane. He laughed for a while, then looked at Fang Yan and said, "If I put forward such a condition to you and you happen to be willing to accept it, would you still be the kind of young man I talked about?" Lord Fang Yan, 99% of the things in this world can be sold and sold, only moral integrity is difficult to value. What kind of moral integrity is it if it can be evaluated? Do you think I have integrity? Fang Yan couldn't help but laugh. Yes. I think so too, Fang Yan said. I just want to ask my international enemy to confirm it for me again. Because my grandfather told me that the person who understands you the most will always be your opponent. Your grandfather is right, Chiba Hirobumi said. Fang Yan looked at Chiba and said, "When you suddenly jumped, I thought you hadn't given up, so I sent you flying. Later, when I saw the black shadow in your eyes, I realized that you were trying to save me. I'm very curious. If you wanted to kill me so badly, why did you save me at that critical moment?" "I wanted to kill you," Chiba said. "That doesn't mean I wanted to see you killed. Are you saying that I must die by your hands? At least you shouldn't be killed so shamelessly." "You are also a person with integrity," Fang Yan commented. "If it were you, would you have saved me?" Fang Yan looked around, then lowered his voice and said, "I won't hide it in front of you. I wouldn't. Because at that time I was defeated by you and my heart was filled with hatred. I was thinking about how to stab you and punch you. If someone else did it for me, I wouldn't blame them for not telling me in advance. Besides, I'm afraid of death. What if you don't like me and finish me off with a stab? If someone helped me create an opportunity, I would definitely get up and run down the mountain. Staying alive is more important. You came to challenge me at this age. When I grow to your age, I will challenge you again. As long as you don't die, we will meet again." Fang Yan grinned and said, "Of course, if there were outsiders here, I wouldn't have answered like this. I will express my heartfelt gratitude for your noble character and unquestionable integrity, and I will strongly condemn the actions of those who ambushed you. They ruined a fair and just duel of high quality, and their actions are an insult to us pure warriors. You did what you should have done. If it were me, I would have done the same. Isn't this answer more pleasing? It is indeed more pleasing, Chiba nodded. You live more realistically than I do. No, I live more shamelessly than you, Fang Yan said. Many people say that about me, but I have never admitted it. However, you are my savior. I am willing to confess in front of you. Because I can't do what you can do. This is where I am not as good as you. So, I am willing to promise you one thing. I hope. Wait. Fang Yan quickly interrupted Chiba and said, the request you put forward must be something that I can do, and I am willing to do it. As long as it doesn't violate national policies, laws and regulations, I won't be scolded as despicable, shameless and nasty. I also have a profession as a teacher. Sometimes I have to maintain my personal image. Chiba was stunned for a long time. Finally, he said, I want to see. Don't underestimate the enemy. Why does he want to see my master? Is it because he was defeated by Junior Marshal Uncle that he is not convinced and wants to challenge my master? Fang Yingying asked with a puzzled face. He is courting death. Fang Haohan made an accurate conclusion about Chiba's behavior. Fang Yan's face was gloomy. He said, he is an opponent worthy of respect. Fortunately, there is only one Chiba in Japan. When the three returned to the school, the gate of the small courtyard was wide open. Fang Yingying put on an alert posture and said in a low voice, there are thieves in the house. Slap. Fang Yan slapped his head. Because he was still very weak, the slap was not strong enough, which made people feel a little sorry. Fang Yan strode into the house. There were 3 more people in the house. If the 3 of them were thieves, then they would be 3 beautiful female thieves. Yi Ro, who was in black clothes and pants, stood on the windowsill, looking at the nursery in the yard with clear eyes. She clearly saw Fang Yan, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan come back, but it seemed that she did not care about their existence at all. She wore a white high-slit dress covered with black spots and a white blouse. The hem of the blouse was tucked into the long dress, giving her a stylish and capable look. Phoenix, who wore a light pink suit jacket, sat on the sofa in the living room. Lu Chaoga occupied the master's seat and was boiling water to make tea for Phoenix and Yi Ro. Phoenix saw Fang Yan come in, but she was still smiling and talking with Lu Chaoga. She said, you are very skilled in making tea. It seems that you do this kind of thing often. I like to drink tea. Lu Chaoga had a soft smile on her face. It was neither hot nor deliberate. But Fang Yan's understanding of the tea ceremony is far above mine. When we first met, he took out the tea I served to him and made clear comments. Later on, we got to know each other better and I learned even more about the tea ceremony from him. He is a very knowledgeable man. This is very rare in a young man. Phoenix held the teacup in her hands and sipped her tea. She said, Fang Yan does have the habit of showing off his skills. Back in Yanjing, he would often use his strange and unusual knowledge to pick up girls. Of course, he had never succeeded. Because everyone in Yanjing who knows him knows what kind of person he is. By the way, Miss Lu, you seem to be very familiar with this courtyard. You know this room as well as your own home. Do you come here often? This is my courtyard. Lu Chaoga said. When Fang Yan first came, he didn't have a place to live, so I lent him the courtyard. Of course, I planted a lot of flowers and plants and he had to pay me to take care of them. Fortunately, Fang Yan is also very proficient in this area. Under his care, the flowers and plants grew even healthier. Moreover, several pots of plants that were originally showing signs of withering were also brought back to life because of his miraculous hands. Look, those are the spider plants. They are now growing so beautifully. A few days ago they even bloomed, but now the flowers have withered. Phoenix smiled even more happily and said, 2 days ago when I was helping Fang Yan wipe his body, I was curious. This kid was beaten up by a wild woman to the point that he didn't dare to go home. He just came to Flower City and now he has such a house to live in. I can't help but be envious. This kid's luck with women is quite good. Lu Chaoga turned her head to look at Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan is indeed a very good person. He has helped me a lot, even my life was saved by him. If I can help him with something, I will be very happy. Heavens, you had such an experience? Phoenix asked in surprise. My life was also saved by him. I don't know if he has told you about it, but we are childhood friends. It is not an exaggeration to say that we are childhood sweethearts. It was a snowy winter and we went ice skating together. I accidentally fell into a hole in the ice and it was Fang Yan who jumped in first to pull me out. Although people later said that he deliberately used Tai Chi wave to shatter the ice, I don't believe that he would do such a thing. That day it was raining heavily. Fang Yan and I were eating at Sky Number 1 in Flower City. When we came out it was already very late and the rain was very heavy. Suddenly a car rushed over from behind. Fang Yan stood at the side and listened. The two women were not stingy with their words of praise for him. If he had not heard it with his own ears, he would not have known that he was actually so handsome and charming. However, Fang Yan did not feel happy at all. What were these two crazy women trying to do by showing off their affection in such a high-profile manner? Chapter 282. There must be a reason for something abnormal. Fang Yan understood Lu Chaoge and he also understood Phoenix. Neither of them were women who liked to show off, and neither were they the kind of cute little women who would squeeze their chubby faces together with their boyfriends to pout and act cute. After taking photos they would post them on their WeChat moments and wait for everyone to like them. One of them was cold and quiet, while the other was arrogant and seductive. Many things were seen through without saying anything, and they would use their own unique way to protect and repay the kindness of others. Did they take the wrong medicine today? That night the rain was too heavy and I couldn't see anything around me. It was dark and the road was slippery and the car didn't have its lights on. If it wasn't for Fang Yan who suddenly rushed over and hugged me and pushed me away, I think I would have become a pile of bones by now. That was the first time I realized how close death was to me. This time it wasn't just to show off their love. Even Phoenix could hear Lu Chaoge's indescribable gratitude and trust towards Fang Yan from her narration. Although it was dangerous to be a hero saving a damsel in distress, the reward was also relatively rich. Of course, that was under the condition that you weren't too ugly. After listening to Lu Chaoge's narration, Phoenix exclaimed and said, "So something like this happened between the two of you." Although Fang Yan and I can be considered childhood sweethearts and have gone through many trials and tribulations together, I always felt that it wasn't as passionate as the two of you. When he held you in his arms, you must have felt very happy, right? Lu Chaoge smiled and said, "He held me in his arms and then rolled on the ground to avoid the impact of the car. At that time I definitely didn't feel anything strange. Now that I think about it, it must have felt very sweet." Phoenix seemed to have just noticed Fang Yan's existence and said, "Fang Yan, sit down and have some tea." "What? You don't want Miss Lu to tell the story between the two of you? I think it's pretty good. In the past, everyone thought you were a lazy and cunning *T. Today, after listening to Miss Lu's words, our understanding of you has been completely subverted." Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen exchanged glances with each other. Both of them were unwilling to give up. Why would a woman speak up for Junior Marshal Uncle, so why wouldn't he be a jerk? Junior Marshal Uncle has been guiding the industry trends, okay? "Now I feel that you are a loyal and righteous bitch," Phoenix praised. "I've never thought that something like this would happen to you. You will be willing to do anything for a person, for a woman." As she said that, Phoenix looked at Fang Yan with a slightly resentful expression. She didn't know if she regretted that the brave Fang Yan didn't belong to her, or if she blamed Fang Yan for not changing for her. Fang Yan walked to Lu Chaoge's side and sat down, saying in a deep voice, "What exactly do you two want? Don't tell me it's for my own good." Phoenix glanced at Fang Yan and said, "I'm praising you. Can't you tell? Two strangers meeting for the first time. Naturally we need to find some common topics. The only thing we have in common is you. So, we naturally have to talk about you. What's so hard to understand? You heard it from the side. Did we ever say anything bad about you? Didn't you see it just now when Miss Lu said that you pushed her away from the front of the car? Her eyes were red with emotion. You didn't arrange the car that caused the accident, right?" Phoenix giggled and said, "Of course not. I believe that the ice wasn't broken by you, and I also believe that you didn't arrange the car. You're such a coward. Even if you wanted to be a hero to save the damsel in distress, you wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Why is there so much sweat on your forehead? Do you feel uncomfortable? It's not that I want to criticize you, but your chest injury is so serious. Before you recover, don't run around." Lu Chaoge didn't pour tea for Fang Yan. Instead, she cleaned the cup, poured a cup of water and placed it in front of Fang Yan, saying, "I heard that you're injured, so I came to see you. Your wound hasn't healed yet. Don't drink tea, drink more water." Phoenix praised and said, "Miss Lu really knows how to take care of people much better than those women who only know how to fight and kill." Yi Ro frowned slightly, her fingers grasped hard, and a piece of blue brick above the window was pulled down by her. She didn't look back, but with a flick of her wrist, The brick flew towards Phoenix, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Whoosh! As the brick flew, sand and dust fell. Phoenix pointed her finger, and the cup of hot tea in her hand flew towards Yi-Ro. The brick and the teacup brushed past each other in the air, and Phoenix raised her hand to catch the brick, while Yi-Ro chopped with her palm, and the teacup flew towards Phoenix at an even faster and fiercer speed. Phoenix extended her hand to receive the teacup. However, just as her fingers made contact with the teacup, a cracking sound rang out. The teacup exploded into pieces and the tea inside splashed all over Phoenix's slit dress. Obviously, Yi-Ro had added a calming force to the tea, and when another force tried to touch and control the teacup, that force immediately counterattacked. As a result, the two forces collided and the teacup shattered. This was not something that could be done by someone with great magic. Fang Yan could do it, but Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan definitely couldn't do it. Phoenix was furious. She slammed her palm on the tea table in front of her, jumped up high and kicked Yi-Ro's back with her golden high heels. Yi-Ro tilted her body and Phoenix went out through the window. As Phoenix passed by Yi-Ro, she grabbed the scarf around Yi-Ro's neck. Yi-Ro tiptoed and followed Phoenix out of the yard. Bang bang bang. This was the sound of their fists and feet colliding. Crack crack. This was the sound of a branch breaking. Clink clank clank. This was the sound of a flower pot in the nursery falling to the ground and shattering. Fang Yan sighed softly and continued to drink the warm water inside the teacup. He had sweated a lot just now and he was indeed a little thirsty. Lu Chaoge was shocked and said, "They're fighting, aren't you going to go and see?" "I don't dare to go," Fang Yan said. "Why?" "To calm them down. Otherwise they'll team up and beat up the third person who breaks in," Fang Yan said. But Lu Chaoge couldn't imagine it. How could these people fight just because they wanted to? And they were so fierce. "If you don't believe me, I'll do an experiment for you," Fang Yan said. Fang Yingying's face was pale and he knelt down in front of Fang Yan and begged, "Junior Marshal Uncle, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been lazy. I shouldn't have washed your face when you were unconscious. I shouldn't have eaten a few meals a day. I shouldn't have used up your treasured ambergris." This time it was Fang Yan's turn to be shocked and he shouted, "You used up my ambergris?" Fang Haohan also used some. "We were afraid that you wouldn't wake up and these natural treasures would be wasted," Fang Yingying explained. So Fang Yan kicked Fang Yingying out. Soon enough, Fang Yingxiong flew back screaming in pain. In the process of entering and exiting, his face and body were punched countless times, and his eyes were like panda eyes. Fang Haohan hid in the corner, holding his head and didn't dare to breathe. Lu Zhaoge looked at Fang Yingxiong with lingering fear in his heart. He thought to himself, no wonder Fang Yan wasn't willing to come out to mediate the situation even though the two women were fighting so fiercely outside. Who would dare to go out? But I'm sitting with these two women drinking tea, chatting and arguing. If they fight, even my bodyguards don't dare to warm up for them, right? The fight between Yi-Ro and the Phoenix became more and more intense, and the flowers and plants in the yard suffered. Lu Zhaoge's expression became more and more unsightly as he heard the clanking sounds of jars breaking. Those were her painstaking efforts. Yi-Ro used her whirlwind kick and as her body rolled she kicked 108 times in a row. When the Phoenix tried to block, it revealed an opening and Yi-Ro kicked it away. Clang! The Phoenix's body hit the wall heavily, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. But with the help of the rebound she rushed toward Yi-Ro again. Bang! The Phoenix punched Yi-Ro in the stomach and Yi-Ro took a few steps back. Seeing the Phoenix chasing after her, she tiptoed, and a large piece of sharp porcelain scraped toward the Phoenix's face. The Phoenix turned 90 degrees and while dodging the attack of the porcelain she also lost the best chance to knock down Yi-Ro. The two distanced themselves from each other and looked at each other with hostility. The number one in the inner world is just SOSO. The Phoenix sneered. I've been wanting to fight with you for a long time. In that case, why did you make me wait until now? I just didn't get the chance. Good food is not afraid of late and now I have the chance, right? I hope you won't let me down. But you, the number one in the inner world, have already let me down. Yi-Ro didn't want to stop. She tiptoed and her body flew up again. She punched the Phoenix's head and even if she didn't get a concussion she wanted to paralyze the Phoenix's face. The Phoenix ran a few steps and her body also jumped up. Her long legs flew out and the pointed high-heeled shoes stabbed toward Yi-Ro's chest. Puncture your big breast. Boom, they quickly exchanged dozens of blows in the air, and then their bodies brushed past each other. Yi Ro's fist missed, and the phoenix's high-heeled shoes stabbed into the wall with great force. A big hole appeared in the wall and the heel of the high-heeled shoes was twisted off. Fang Yan had to stand up. He stood in the yard and shouted, "Stop or I'll be disfigured." Plop. Fang Yan's body was knocked away. He struggled to get up from the ground, covered his bloody face and said, "I knew it. I'll be disfigured if I keep hitting." Chapter 283. Fang Yan's sacrifice was worthwhile. At least Phoenix and Yi Ro didn't continue to fight. Lu Chaoge was also worried. If they kept fighting like this, the whole Rosefinch High School would be torn down by them. How could he pluck a brick out of the wall just by grabbing it with his hand? Phoenix and Yi Ro distanced themselves from each other. They looked at each other with hostility, like two aggressive roosters. Puff. Phoenix suddenly laughed. She looked at Yi Ro and said, "What? You don't want to give up?" "You are the one who doesn't want to give up," Yi Ro said with disdain. "Of course I don't want to give up," Phoenix said. "If I can't get it, I won't let you get it. Who told me to hate you so much? I think Lu Chaoge is very good, much better than you. I don't want what others snatch," Yi Ro said coldly. "I hope you keep your word," Phoenix said with a sly smile like a fox. Phoenix left, so did Yi Ro. Phoenix was very happy when she left. She patted Fang Yan's face and told him to take care of himself. She also patted Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's shoulders and told them to take good care of junior martial uncle. In fact, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen also wanted her to pat their faces. They had even prepared their faces in advance. Unfortunately, Phoenix didn't let them get what they wanted. Phoenix also chatted with Lu Chaoge for a long time. She kept praising Lu Chaoge's beauty and saying that she and Fang Yan were a match made in heaven. It was as if the two of them had been friends for decades and she knew Lu Chaoge very well. Yi Ro also left. Yi Ro left very quietly. She just glanced at Fang Yan and then turned to leave. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen wanted to stay but didn't dare to send them off. He just followed behind Yi Ro timidly and watched her walk out of the courtyard. When she stepped out of the gate, Yi Ro walked in a free and easy manner while Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen walked in a wretched way. Fang Yan lay on the sofa, and Lu Chaoge helped him apply the ointment on the wound on his face. The wound on his face from the Battle of One Sword Peak had yet to heal, and now he had to suffer another innocent injury. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to go out and meet anyone for 10 days to half a month. Now you know what kind of people they are, right? Why are you getting involved in their conflict? Do you know how dangerous this is? Fang Yan kindly reminded him. Although it was too late to remind him now. "I've long heard that you're going to have a duel with the Japanese swordsman, but I didn't go to watch it. I dare not. I have confidence in you. I know you will win. We've been through so many things together and you've never lost, but I still dare not go there. I'm afraid that something bad will happen. I was the first one to come in and I opened the gate. Then Miss Yi Ro came and the last one was Miss Phoenix. Miss Phoenix and Miss Yi Ro don't get along very well. Because Phoenix has been provoking Miss Yi since she came. Miss Yi doesn't like to talk, so she left her seat and stood by the window alone. I can see that she wants to wait for you to come back. Otherwise she would have left a long time ago according to her character. Lu Chaoge was one of the people involved in the incident. She told some of the things that happened before Fang Yan came back. There are only a few ways for women to fight. First is to rope in more people to support themselves. Second is to suppress and isolate the opponent. The frequency of this method is very high. Miss Phoenix did it very well. She needed someone to cooperate with her and I became the person who cooperated with her. Seeing Fang Yan frown, Lu Chaoge smiled and said, "Miss Phoenix is a person who can be easily seen through, but it's hard for Miss Yi to let others know what she's thinking. Since Miss Phoenix wants to provoke her, why don't I help her? In this way I can see a more real Yi Ro." "Did you see it?" Fang Yan asked. "I saw it." Lu Chaoge put the medicine box in the medicine box on the coffee table. "What did you see?" "Miss Yi is simpler than Miss Phoenix," Lu Chaoge said. Fang Yan smiled and said, "Didn't you say you don't understand? Miss Yi is quiet and serious, which makes people feel that she is cold and arrogant, and keeps people thousands of miles away. This kind of first impression is not good," Lu Chaoge explained. "On the contrary, Miss Phoenix is warm and generous. Although she is extremely arrogant, she is good at making topics, which makes people feel like a spring breeze when they get along with her. There is also a trace of joy in your heart. You feel that even such a charming woman is willing to be friends with you, and you feel respected and loved. In this case, shouldn't you like Phoenix more? I don't hate Phoenix because she lives a heavy life. A dancing phoenix wearing shackles, no matter how beautiful she is, can't fly to the Chinese parasol tree. But I like Miss Yi more. Why? Fang Yan sat up straight and looked at Lu Chaoge with some doubt. To be honest, Yi Rou's relationship with others had always been very bad. Whether in the Jianghu or the Jianghu, as long as they were familiar with her, they would eventually fall in love with Phoenix. She was too cold, too arrogant, too strong, and too violent. It would be strange if such a person had friends. Therefore, Yi Rou had always been excluded from various circles since she was a child. Fang Yan, Bai Xiu, and other friends of Phoenix Bailey Lu often went up the mountain to catch birds, went into the water to catch fish, went skiing on the ice and fought sharks in the sea, but Yi Rou was never there. Everyone had heard of Yi Rou. Everyone knew about Yi Rou. But no one had ever asked them to play with Yi Rou. Of course, the person who hated Yi Rou the most at that time was Fang Yan, because he was the most direct victim. Young people cared about their reputation, especially those who thought they were good at fighting. If anyone dared to scold them or spit on them, they would fight with their lives. Yi Rou often beat him up like a dog, and he would go to Phoenix for help with all his wounds. There was even a long time when Fang Yan stubbornly blamed the failure of his first love on Yi Rou, because no woman would like an idiot who was always beaten black and blue and couldn't get out of bed. Today he heard someone say good things about Yi Rou, which really surprised Fang Yan. Because how bad can a woman who doesn't even know how to express her love be? Lu Chaoge said. I can't see Phoenix clearly, but I can see Miss Yi clearly. She likes you. Fang Yan was stunned. Lu Chaoge sighed softly and said, don't pretend you don't know. Lu Chaoge took the medicine box to the kitchen, and then went to the yard to clean up the broken branches and tiles. A tile pricked her finger and bright red blood flowed out. She took out a band-aid from her wallet in her pocket and put it on her finger. She could take good care of herself. This was a habit she had developed when she was very young, and she didn't want to show her wound to others easily. She liked Yi Rou more, and she felt that Yi Rou was the same kind of person as her. Because of the serious injury, Fang Yan asked for a few days of sick leave from school. Zhang Xiaofeng, the principal of the school, came. After seeing Fang Yan's injury, he sighed and said that since he had a cold, he should take a good rest and not worry about the 9th class. He would find an experienced teacher to take care of him for a few days. Li Mingqiang, the director of education, and Zhu Jian, the deputy director, also came. Li Mingqiang cursed Fang Yan as soon as he saw him. Then he asked if he had applied medicine, and there was still half a bottle of golden chrysalis muscle nourishing powder at home. Fang Yan hurriedly said no. Zhu Jian was an honest person. He asked in a low voice what happened to Fang Yan's injury, if he had quarreled with his girlfriend, and when he would take his sister-in-law to dinner. Because of Fang Yan's special status in the school, almost all the middle and senior leaders of the school came during his days off. Huang Haoren, Tang Qing, and Su Ying also came. They came to visit Mr. Fang on behalf of the students of the 9th class. What's more, he came with several fruits in his hands. Huang Haoren deserved to be the son of a journalist. As soon as he saw Fang Yan, he exclaimed and said, Mr. Fang, Director Li said that you had a cold and had to ask for a few days off. Why was your face beaten like this? Who beat you? Did you call the police? Tang Qing smiled and said, I know the reason, but I won't say it. Su Ying glared at Tang Qing angrily and said, Tang Qing, you're so annoying. It's fine if you don't know, but if you know, you won't share it with us. What kind of classmate are you? Tang Qing looked at Su Ying and said, It's not that I don't want to say it, but Mr. Fang definitely doesn't want me to say it. Mr. Fang, don't you think so? Fang Yan was extremely angry. If his body had not recovered, he would have jumped up and beaten this guy. For his behavior, there was only one word to describe it. He deserved to be beaten. Fang Yan asked about the situation in the class. Huang Haoren said that Zhang Yu, the language teacher of the 1st class, would be in charge of the language class for the time being. Fang Yan could understand such an arrangement. Since Fang Yan and Zhang Yu won the bet last time, the 1st class and the 9th class had almost become natural enemies. The school wanted the students to compete with each other, but they didn't want them to be hostile to each other. Therefore, it was necessary to let Zhang Yu go over and ease the relationship with the students of the 9th class. Fang Yan had never thought that Zhang Yu was his natural rival. He told Huang Haoren and the others to cooperate with Mr. Zhang Yu's work and not let Zhang Yu be embarrassed in the 9th class. Huang Haoren nodded and agreed. He listened to Fang Yan. Su Ying looked at Fang Yan with a smile and said, "Mr. Fang, you don't dare to go to the classroom because of the injury on your face, do you? In fact, it's completely unnecessary. Even if you are disfigured in my heart, you are still the most handsome language teacher in the world." An idea came to Fang Yan's mind and he said, "Su Ying, I have something to trouble you with. I have a document to write but I don't have the energy now. The handwriting of Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen is too ugly. Can you help me write it?" Huang Haoren was full of displeasure when he heard this. He said very actively, "Mr. Fang, what do you want to write? I can help you write it. My handwriting is much better than Su Ying's." Fang Yan trembled with anger and said, "Girls are more careful. It's better for Su Ying to write it." Chapter 284. Fang Yan took a pen and paper and handed it to Su Ying. He said, "Write an application. Application for the Excellent Teacher of the Year. I'll read it and you write it." Su Ying agreed readily. It was rare for Mr. Fang to ask his students to do something which was something to be proud of. Application. Dear school leader, I'm Fang Yan, a language teacher in class 9 grade 1. My name may be a little strange to you. But when it comes to what I've done, Su Ying's handwriting was small and graceful, which looked like her. However, it was not the handwriting that Fang Yan was looking for. Fang Yan looked at Su Ying and said, "Su Ying, you're amazing. I didn't expect your handwriting to be so beautiful. I don't believe that you can write such beautiful handwriting with your left hand. Write with your other hand." Su Ying looked up at Fang Yan helplessly and said, "Mr. Fang, why do I feel that you're up to no good? Are you looking for a criminal suspect or a girl who wrote you a love letter?" Huang Haoren and Tang Cheng also looked at Fang Yan suspiciously. They felt that Fang Yan's request was really strange. Fang Yan smiled awkwardly and waved his hand. "How could that be? How could there be a criminal suspect? Who would write me a love letter? Don't make wild guesses. I just want to see if Su Ying's handwriting looks good with her left hand." Su Ying still wrote a few words with her left hand according to Fang Yan's request. It seemed that she was not used to it and her handwriting was very poor. Fang Yan dispelled his doubts about Su Ying and said, "Forget it. I'll write with my right hand." During his sick leave, Fang Yan was not idle. He had been thinking about the changes of the heart of Tai Chi on Sword Peak. He knew that the reason why the Taiji heart could sense the outside world was because of the existence of Qi. Every object had a vital energy or vitality. As long as they breathed, had a temperature or swayed with the wind, the heart of Taiji would be able to picture them in his mind. However, from pictograms to lines, was this a sublimation or a regression? Fang Yan crooked his finger at Fang Yingying and said, "Hero, punch me." Fang Yingying shook his head and said with a smile, "Junior martial uncle, this is not good, right? You are my most respected and beloved martial uncle. How could I hit you? If I tell you to hit him, then hit him. Stop talking nonsense." "Should we ask Fang Haohen? If you don't do it, I'll hit you." Fang Yingying had no choice but to punch Fang Yan's head. Bang! Fang Yingying's body flew backward, rolling around in the yard like a meaty ball. He struggled to get up from the ground, clutching his stomach and crying, I knew it, I knew it. Junior martial uncle, you are biased. Why do you always hit me but not Fang Haohen?" Fang Yan sighed softly and said, "Fang Haohen is too thin. I don't have the heart to hit him." Through this practice, Fang Yan found that his defensive ability had been strengthened again. In the past, when he was defending, he would take the initiative. When danger came, he would sense it and start to defend and counterattack. Fang Yingxiong hadn't sensed any danger yet, but he had already sent the enemy flying. Of course, it was mainly because Fang Yingxiong was too weak. If the enemy was an expert like Qianye, it would be more troublesome. However, Fang Yan was not in a hurry to verify it. His body was still very weak and his damaged body had not been fully recovered. If he challenged the Qianye of the army or an expert at the same level as him at this time, he would probably die. The happiest thing during this time was Xia Tian's return. When she came back, she also brought her production team and the two little girls, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. Jiang Qin was a little thinner than when she left, and Yuan Lin was a little fatter than when she left. Jiang Qin saw the wounds on Fang Yan's face and tears were about to flow out. She gritted her teeth with red eyes and said, "Mr. Fang, who beat you like this? I'm going to beat him to death." Fang Yan looked at the little girl who was waving her fists and shouting to avenge him and said, "You don't have to do it. I beat him up even worse." Yuan Lin pinched Jiang Qin's face and said teasingly, "Mr. Fang's skills are so good. Who can beat him?" "Then I'm going to beat him up," Jiang Qin said angrily. "Why did he beat me up?" In the eyes of girls, anyone who beat Mr. Fang must not be a good person. "You can't beat him. Let me do this kind of thing," Fang Yan kindly advised. If Jiang Qin went to challenge the Qinya of the army, the enemy would probably throw her away with a flick of his sleeve. "I'll apply medicine for you," Jiang Qin said. "No need." Fang Yan refused. "Why?" "Because I just applied it half an hour ago," Fang Yan said. "Then what can I do for you?" After not seeing each other for a long time, the little girl really wanted to show off in front of Fang Yan. "Are you thirsty? I'll make you a cup of tea." "Oh, you're drinking tea." Xia Kiki sat at the side and looked at her two disciples with a smile. She looked at Fang Yan and said, "It's good to be young. You can do what you want without fear." "When you said that, you weren't that old, right?" Fang Yan said with a smile. Xia brushed the hair in front of her forehead and said, "Can you compare with them? It's so tender that water can be wrung out." "If you let me wring it, I can wring out water from you," Fang Yan said. "My hands are strong." Xia was angry and said angrily, "Fang Yan, do you know how to chat?" Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin giggled at the side. Fang Yan said helplessly, "I know why you brought them here. Look at my face, it's like this. Can I be in the picture?" He ran over without saying hello in the summer and he even brought Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin along. Naturally, he wanted to catch him off guard. She was already in Huaqing. Could Fang Yan still be cruel enough to refuse? "What I want is your kung fu. Your face can hit mosaic," Xia said. Xia's classical album hoped to have a song with Tai Chi as the background, so she chose Fang Yan to be the male lead in the story. However, if it was just a male lead, it would not be impressive enough, so she helped him find two female disciples who also played Tai Chi. The red sun rose and the morning mist had not dispersed. On the edge of the lonely cliff, Fang Yan, dressed in white, was playing Tai Chi absent-mindedly. The wind was blowing Fang Yan's clothes up. Behind him were two young girls in white, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. They breathed and waved with Fang Yan's breath. Fang Yan was quiet, they were quiet. Fang Yan moved, they also moved. Such a music video must be beautiful and intoxicating. Anyway, Fang Yan already felt that he was about to die. He looked at Xia and said seriously, "You must show your face." When Sister Li was washing clothes by the patio in the yard, she suddenly heard someone shouting, "Mom." Sister Li thought that she was hallucinating. Since Jiang Qin left, she could often hear her daughter standing at the door of the small courtyard shouting, "Mom, I'm back." She shook her head and sighed, saying, "If I had known, I wouldn't have sent the child so far away. What's the point of being a star? Isn't it 100 times better to be by her side? I have to call my dear again later. I don't know if it will delay her practice." "I'm back." A soft body suddenly hugged her from behind and said happily. Auntie Li was shocked. Then she realized that her precious daughter was really back. She quickly turned around and held Jiang Qin in her arms, wiping her tears and said, Dear, you're really back. I thought I heard wrong." "Oh, I'm really back." Jiang Qin was also crying. She was still young and this was the first time she had gone far from home. Although she had her teacher's care and Xia's care, she still had to deal with a lot of things alone. Moreover, she really missed her father and mother. "It's good that you're back. You won't leave this time, right?" Sister Li held her daughter and looked at her with a smile. "Your face is thinner, your chin is sharper and your bones are stronger. Are you not used to the food in Yanjing?" "Of course it's not as good as Mom's food," Jiang Qin said flatteringly. "You haven't answered Mom's question. You won't leave this time?" Sister Li asked stubbornly. "Why do you want to be a star? What's so good about being a star? Mom doesn't beg you to be a star. You just stay by Mom's side and live happily every day. Mom will be satisfied. If you like to study, then study. If you don't like to study, then just mess around. If you can't find a job after graduation, your dad will kill pigs and your mom will set up a stall to make money to support you." Mom and Dad won't feel tired. Mom. Jiang Qin said embarrassedly. I came back this time to participate in the shooting. Mr. Fong and Sister Xia are also here. As soon as Sister Li turned around, she saw Fang Yan and Xia standing at the gate of the courtyard, looking at the mother and daughter with a smile. Sister Li quickly let go of Jiang Qin and washed her hands in the wash basin again. She wiped her hands on her clothes and quickly ran towards Xia. Fang Yan was shocked. In his prediction, a fierce hand-to-hand fight was about to begin. With Sister Li's position, Xia was no match at all. Auntie Li could sit there for 2 summers. Fang Yan couldn't help but take a step forward, blocking half of Xia's body. Sister Li rushed to Xia's side, grabbed her little hand and shook it hard. She said, Miss Xia, thank you. You are the benefactor of our Jiang family. If you didn't give me this opportunity, how could I go to Yanjing to learn from such a famous teacher? Every time I call my dear, she talks about you. She says that you have helped her a lot. As a parent, I don't know what to say. Miss Xia won't leave tonight, right? You must eat at home. Sister Li turned to Jiang Qin and shouted, Dear, call your dad and tell him to leave a pig's hind leg. Fang Yan, who was standing in front of Xiaji, had completely turned into transparent air. He secretly retracted the hand he had just extended and put it back into his pocket. Sometimes it was lucky that no one paid attention to you. Chapter 285. Jiang Dahai was an honest person. At night he packed up the stall and went home with a pig's hind leg. Sister Li displayed her cooking skills to the fullest and made a table full of dishes. Xiaqin repeatedly stopped her, saying that she couldn't eat that much. Auntie Li laughed and said that it didn't matter, since Teacher Fang Yan was also here, and Teacher Fang Yan had a good appetite. Fang Yan could only nod and tell Xiaqin that he really could eat, so don't refuse Sister Li's kindness. When eating, Jiang Dahai took a bottle of West Phoenix old wine from the wine cabinet. Fang Yan looked at the age. This wine had been collected by him for nearly 30 years. Jiang Dahai opened the bottle cap, and the fragrance of wine filled the air. He smiled honestly and said, Everyone drink a little. So he poured a cup for Xiaqin, a cup for Fang Yan, a cup for Sister Li, and a cup for himself. Jiang Qin handed over the cup in front of him and said pitifully, Dad, this wine is so fragrant. Pour me some too. Jiang Dahai capped the bottle and said, Children are not allowed to drink. Dad, I'm not a child anymore. Jiang Qin said coquettishly. Jiang Dahai looked at his daughter and laughed. His love for her was indescribable. Jiang Dahai stood up and took the initiative to raise his cup. He said sincerely with a serious expression, Thank you, Miss Xia, thank you, Teacher Fang Yan. I have no ability as a father. I can only kill pigs. My daughter Jiang Qin, please take care of her. After that he raised his head and drank up the wine in the cup. Fang Yan had known Jiang Dahai for half a year. Jiang Dahai gave people the impression that he was kind, honest and a good man. He rarely spoke and always looked at his wife and children with a smile. He had never seen him blush with anyone. It was the first time for Fang Yan to see Jiang Dahai so formal and the first time for him to stand up and drink so boldly. For his daughter he did what a father could do. Just like millions of other parents. Xiaqin also stood up, raised her neck and drank up the wine in the cup. The smell of wine was strong, and her face immediately appeared a bright red. She looked at Jiang Dahai and said solemnly, Mr. Jiang, your daughter Jiang Qin is a very talented child. It is precisely because of her talent that I hope that she can learn music and learn classical instruments. The path that she has taken is one that no one has taken before. Even I have the will, but I do not have the ability. So I hope she can succeed. I have high hopes for her. I believe that it won't be long before you'll be shocked by your daughter's talent and feel proud of having such a daughter. Of course, even now she's still the most outstanding and sensible daughter you have. Jiang Dahai smiled like a Maitreya Buddha. He was also a little embarrassed as he said, When Jiang Qin was in primary school she once came back and told me that her classmates called her the butcher's daughter. I didn't have the ability so I could only be a butcher. But I don't want others to see Jiang Qin call her a butcher's daughter. That won't happen. Xiaqin comforted. People will call her Teacher Jiang in the future. Thank you. Sister Li's eyes were red. Thank you, Miss Xia. I'll drink to you too. Jiang Dahai raised his glass to Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan, Why haven't you come to eat at home for so long? Fang Yan smiled and said, I'm too busy with work. If Uncle Jiang wants to find someone to drink with, you can call me anytime. The two clinked their glasses and drank the wine at the same time. Fang Yan knew that Jiang Dehai would not know about his conversation with Sister Li. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he refused Sister Li's fruit feast and left Jiang Qin at home to accompany his parents. Fang Yan sent Xiachen back to her hotel. Winter had arrived and the chill was getting deeper. Most of the pedestrians on the street wore sweaters or thick coats, scarves and hats to protect themselves from the cold. Winter in Yanjing was from the outside to the inside. The wind was howling and the ice was hitting one's face. All one needed was an extra coat to resist it. Winter in Huaqing was from the inside to the outside. First one's bones would feel cold and then the body would feel cold. It was impossible to guard against. Therefore Xiachen, who was wearing a black cotton dress and brown leather boots, still felt the hostility of Huaqing towards her. The only pity was that it rarely snowed in Huaqing no matter how cold it was. For Fang Yan, a winter without snow was an imperfect winter. He liked snow. He liked the holy and clean feeling of the whole world being covered in ice and snow. Fang Yan asked with a smile. Xiachen wrapped her woolen coat tightly and straightened the sunglasses on the bridge of her nose. She said, Huaqing is colder than Yanjing. I'm cold too. Fang Yan said. Let's take a taxi back. Xiachen looked at Fang Yan with a smile and said, Do you really want to send me away? Do you think it's new? If other men had the chance to walk with the national goddess in the summer, they would be willing to run naked, right? If you really ran naked, I wouldn't want to. How many people would be staring at you? Fang Yan reached out to stop a taxi and said, You don't like me and I've never thought of hitting on you. We don't have to pretend to be ambiguous. Fang Yan opened the door and said to the taxi driver, Master, Hilton Jianqiao Hotel. Xiachen looked at Fang Yan and said, Aren't we friends? Of course. Fang Yan said. Friends go back to their own homes after the meal. Xiachen giggled and said, All right. Then we'll be friends. She bent down and got into the car. She waved at Fang Yan and said, Good night. Remember what you promised me. I'll see you at Shasha Mountain. The first time Xiachen came into contact with Fang Yan was at Shasha Mountain. The first time she saw Fang Yan practicing Tai Chi was also at Shasha Mountain. Therefore she stubbornly chose to shoot her music video at Shasha Mountain. Xiachen's team had already discussed with the person in charge of the Shasha Mountain Scenic Management Area. Only a fool wouldn't be able to advertise their scenic area for free. When the taxi was far away, Fang Yan turned to look at the green belt behind him and said in a cold voice, Come out, don't be sneaky like your master. A middle-aged man walked out from behind the billboard and stood in front of Fang Yan. He said in a vicious voice, Found them. Fang Yan looked at him and said, You better not hate me because you can't beat me at all. You've worked so hard to kill me, but it's easy for me to kill you. The man's fist clenched, but he quickly relaxed. Too lazy to look at the middle-aged man's pained expression, Fang Yan directly ordered, Bring the car here. The middle-aged man waved his hand. A black Audi slowly drove in front of Fang Yan. Fang Yan opened the door and sat in the back seat. The middle-aged man also sat in the front passenger seat. Fang Yan closed his eyes and rested. The car quickly moved. It was heading towards the goal that it had set. Caesar Winery. This was a grape import and export company located in the suburbs of Huaqing. Barrels of wine were shipped from France or other European and American countries by sea. They were packaged at Caesar Winery and sold all over the country. Naturally, there was no lack of wine in the winery. Therefore, the guests of the winery could naturally enjoy it whenever and wherever they wanted. Following an extremely licentious moan, the room finally returned to silence. A long-haired woman got up from the bed, randomly picked up a man's shirt and put it on. Her snow-white thighs were exposed in the air, exuding a seductive scent. She went to the wine cabinet and poured 2 glasses of red wine. She gave one to the man on the bed, took a sip of the other and said, I have a bad feeling about this. Is it because I'm not good enough? The man leaned against the headboard, revealing his thick chest and inverted triangular pectoral muscles. In some ways he was very confident. No, you're doing very well, the woman said. That's the best compliment for a man. The man smiled and said, You're also very good, the most charming woman I've ever seen. I'm starting to like you a bit. Like? Do we deserve it? The woman sneered. That's true. He might live today but he might die tomorrow. He might be alive now but he might be dead in the next second. So, what do you mean like or not like? It's too extravagant, the man shrugged and said self-deprecatingly. He drank the red wine in the glass and said, What did you just say? Just now my ears were twitching, I had a premonition of danger. Our lives will be in danger, the woman said. The man grinned and said, The famous prostitute Flower can also be afraid? If this gets back to the organization I'm afraid the other flowers will laugh at us. The woman sneered and said, Afraid? To live is to atone for sins and to die is to rest. For such as we are, death is the ultimate happiness. What's there to be afraid of? This is a woman's sense of crisis. When I feel danger coming I always have this feeling. I think we've been exposed. Everyone has faith and as an assassin their faith is their intuition. This intuition has saved their lives many times, allowing them to escape from death countless times. The man understood this truth, suddenly lifted the quilt and jumped out of the bed, saying, At least the prostitute Flower hasn't made a mistake in this respect. Inform the others we'll evacuate immediately. This place is no longer safe. I say even if you're in a hurry to leave, shouldn't you at least put on your pants? Fang Yan squatted by the window and looked at them. I'm embarrassed to look at you with your buttocks naked like this. His mouth said he was embarrassed, but his eyes were really embarrassed. This woman's body is really good, the man's body, what are you looking at? Chapter 286. Those who did great things did not bother about trifles. Even if they were in great trouble they would not care about the little things. Four-lipped Flower and her partner, Wasp, meeting Fang Yan at this time was undoubtedly a great disaster. Assassins always took the initiative to go out and kill people. How could they let the assassination target wander into their lair? Lipped Flower looked at Fang Yan who was squatting on the windowsill and said with a smile, A distinguished guest should come through the front door. It's not a gentleman's behavior to lie on the window and eavesdrop. If you have such a need, I don't mind being your husband for one night, seeing that you are handsome and good at martial arts. Is there a need to be so sneaky? Fang Yan was really angry with her and said angrily, Do you think I lack women? I'm not bragging, but whether it's a mature sister or a campus goddess, whether it's my first love or a wild girlfriend, as long as I crook my finger. Lipped Flower sneered and asked, And then? You crook your finger and they will do what? It's none of your business. Fang Yan said angrily. He was a little depressed because they were all gone. It had nothing to do with him. Wasp lifted the quilt to cover her naked lower body and said, Mr. Fang, I've heard a lot about you, but I didn't expect to meet you on such an occasion. It's really awkward. What's there to be embarrassed about? What's wrong with meeting and chatting openly? Fang Yan did not feel anything wrong at all. He stared at the hand holding the quilt and said, You'd better not move. If you move your hand I'll break it. Wasp stopped her little movements behind the quilt and said with a smile, I don't think you are interested in men's naked bodies. Why don't you let me get dressed and we can sit down to drink tea and chat? Oh, if you like to drink, this place has the purest white wine in France. How about it? Do you want a glass? Fang Yan jumped down from the windowsill. The strong smell of hormones in the room made him frown. He didn't like this smell, especially when it was made by someone else. Looking at Lipped Flower and Wasp who were staring at him warily, he said, Don't drink. I'm afraid you've poisoned the wine. I don't know who you are, but I know you're from an organization called the Arsenal. I've killed a lot of people from that organization, so unfortunately, you won't be the first pair. To be honest, I've always felt very wronged. I didn't provoke anyone, so why are you guys always staring at me? I went to the cafeteria for a meal and was attacked by your bombs. The first time I went back to my own company I met your spy. When I was sparring with the Japanese god of swordsmanship at the Sword Peak to win glory for the country, you sent people flying over to bombard me with cannons. Do you have a conscience? Do you have any sense of propriety? Can't you have a little bit of national pride and patriotism? Fang Yan stared at the lipstick and said, I can see that you are a senior member of your organization, right? Tell me who sent you to kill me. Who's the mastermind behind this? Lipped Flower's face was full of sarcasm as he said, Since you know we're from the Arsenal, how can you be so stupid as to think you can get the secrets you want from us? Why do you think we're the kind of people who are easy to talk to? I'm just asking out of habit, I didn't think you'd answer. Fang Yan's mood was very stable and his expression was very calm. If not, how can I stall for time? Wasp was startled and shouted, "What did you do?" His eyes swept around but he didn't find any enemy. The more he did this, the more nervous he became. The enemy that he couldn't see was the most terrifying. Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. "I came a little early and I'm really not interested in your bed affairs. I originally wanted to wait until you were done before coming in, but you guys didn't stop. I thought I had nothing to do so I blew a kind of powder that my little Marshall nephew got from somewhere into the room." Seeing Wasp and Lipped Flower immediately held their breath, Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "Don't be nervous because it's useless to be nervous. What you should have inhaled has already been inhaled. This kind of powder is silent and odorless, and it's also suppressed by the smell of your hormones. It would be strange if you could detect it. Try to raise your strength and see if your body has any reaction." Lipped Flower and Wasp immediately secretly gathered their strength, and found that their fists were soft. If they fought with Fang Yan in this state they would be killed with a slap. "Do you feel that you can't raise your strength?" "That's right, my little Marshall nephew told me that this powder is called bone melting powder. If the amount is enough it can even melt bones. I was afraid that you would find something strange so I didn't dare to use that much. So I just dispersed a little of your excess strength." "After hearing what I said, shouldn't you be a little nicer to me?" Fang Yan asked with a smile. "What are you trying to do?" Wasp shouted coldly. As he spoke, Fang Yan had already lunged at him. He punched him in the chest and when Wasp's body flew backward he grabbed his arm and pulled him back. Fang Yan reached out and grabbed Wasp's neck and twisted it hard. Crack! Wasp's head drooped and when Fang Yan let go his body collapsed to the ground. Fang Yan picked up a silver light bullet from Wasp's hand, weighed it in his hand and said to Lipped Flower, "To tell you the truth, after dealing with you a lot, I'm very afraid of this kind of thing." "Why didn't you do it?" "Because I've seen you do it," Lipped Flower said. "In Chao Yan's Underground Research Institute, if I didn't have a substitute, I would have already died in your hands. Even if I wasn't poisoned I wouldn't be a match for you, not to mention now that my body is weak, I have no chance at all. Wasp didn't see you do it so he died." "Smart people can always live longer," Fang Yan said admiringly. "But why should I keep you alive? You're a tight-lipped person, I can't get any answers from your mouth." Fang Yan stuffed the silver bullet into Lipped Flower's mouth and said, "Tell me, what should I do with you?" Lipped Flower's face was pale and she looked at Fang Yan in horror. Because her mouth was stuffed, her words were a little unclear. "Since you can find this place then you must know, we're not your real target." Fang Yan nodded and said, "Of course." Fang Yan chopped Lipped Flower's neck with his palm. After her body fainted on the bed he pressed the red button on the silver bullet. He didn't have any mercy towards the members of the armory. Because they were no longer people but a group of man-eating devils. When Fang Yan closed the door of the room, there was a loud bang inside the room. Fang Yan could imagine the huge power of the silver bullet when it exploded. He had been close to it several times. Never again. At 1 o'clock in the morning, if it wasn't a shipping day, few vehicles would come to the winery at this time. However, tonight was an exception. The door of the winery was opened, and then a black Mercedes-Benz slowly drove in. The car stopped at the door of the small building, and the man in black in the passenger seat quickly got out of the car and ran over to open the rear door. A young man got out of the car. Lu Qingming looked up at the dark winery and said, "Open the door." The middle-aged bodyguard nodded and took out a magnetic card from his pocket. He swiped it in front of the electronic door lock, and the door of the small building opened automatically. Lu Qingming took the lead and walked in, and the bodyguard in black followed him into the house. Clang. The door of the small building closed automatically. "Turn on the light," Lu Qingming said. The light was turned on. The house was suddenly brightly lit and it was as bright as day. Unfortunately, it wasn't opened by the bodyguard in black. He stood beside Lu Qingming and didn't even have time to do anything. There were two people sitting on the sofa in the living room. Lu Qingming never thought he would see these two people. Lu Qingming quickly turned around, and there was already a group of men in black standing behind him, blocking their way. Fang Yan looked at Lu Qingming, who was standing there with a gloomy expression, and said with a smile, "I know you are very surprised as to why I am sitting here. In fact, I am also very surprised. After all, you are a person who knows how to disguise yourself. It's really not easy to catch your tail." Fang Yen patted the shoulder of the man sitting beside him and said with a smile, "Thanks to your big brother. If he didn't arrange people around you to know your whereabouts and provide me with the place where you met the people from the arsenal, I'm afraid our meeting would have to be delayed for a long time." Lu Qingming stared viciously at the man sitting beside Fang Yen. He panted heavily and roared angrily like a wounded beast. "Why? Why did you do this?" The man reached out and took off the wolf mask on his face. His ugly face became more and more shocking under the light. He calmly looked at Lu Qingming, whose face was full of disbelief, and said, "You are really too naive. How can you represent the Lu family to protect the interests of the Lu family like this? I know that you have always wanted to replace my position and have always wanted to become one of the 4 prodigies of Huaqing. But, my good brother, do you really think you can sit in that position steadily? Jiangzililan Valley is full of people who eat people without spitting out their bones. Even I have to be very careful when dealing with them. Why are you so arrogant to think that you can play with all the heroes in the world?" Chapter 287. The people who understand you the most are not only your enemies but also the people around you. Although the willow tree's status in the family was greatly reduced due to his disfigurement, it was still very easy to arrange a confidant by Lu Qingming's side. It was also because of the willow tree's cooperation that they were able to find traces of contact between Lu Qingming and the people from the armory. It was also because of the willow tree's selfless help that Fang Yen was able to find the hiding place of the armory killers. Without the willow tree's help, Lu Qingming wouldn't have come to this place at this time. Therefore, the people who can hurt you the most are not only your enemies but also your family. The latter is impossible to guard against. Lu Qingming didn't expect to meet the willow tree here. His emotions still couldn't completely calm down. He stared at the willow tree with a gloomy face and said, "Childish? Yes, in your heart I'm always so childish. You always look down on me and always treat me as an idiot. Am I an idiot? Of course not. How am I worse than you? How am I worse than you? If you didn't have a good father, how could you always be able to stand in front of me in every situation? Do you think you can hide your sinister side by being crazy all day long? Do you think you're humiliating yourself by playing with a few women? Lover of the masses, do you know that every time I hear people call you that, I sneer in my heart? Who is the real childish one? Yes, I've always wanted to replace you. I've always wanted to become one of the new 4 prodigies of Huaqing. I've never hidden my thoughts. You were stabbed by Lu Chaoge and your face was cut by Fang Yen. I'm very happy to hear these things. I know my chance has come. The Lu family can't let a loser and a disfigured person stand on the stage. If they choose again, I'm the most suitable candidate." Lu Qingming looked at the willow tree and said, "If you were me, would your thoughts be different from mine? When the opportunity comes, wouldn't you reach out and grab it?" The willow tree said frankly, "Maybe my thoughts are a bit more extreme than yours. I'll even pray at night before I sleep, praying that you will never stand up again and lie on the wheelchair like a waste for the rest of your life. I didn't cut your face and you being cheated has nothing to do with me," Lu Qingming said unwillingly. "Why do you hate me so much?" "I don't hate you," said the willow tree. "I don't hate you at all. I still think of you as my younger brother." "Little brother? The little brother that you betrayed?" Lu Qingming sneered. He had waited for so long, he had purposely raised his voice, but until now not a single member of the armory had rushed over to help. He knew that they were all dead. When he saw Fang Yen and Lu Shu sitting on the sofa in the living room, he knew that they were dead. If they weren't dead, how would Fang Yen and Lu Shu dare to sit on the sofa in the armory? The armory was an assassin company that researched gunpowder and all sorts of genetic weapons. Were they not afraid of being blasted into ashes? Previously it was just a suspicion. Now he could finally confirm it. The willow tree stood up. He walked towards Lu Qingming step by step. His walking posture was very ugly, swaying from side to side like an old duck with an injured left leg. The middle-aged bodyguard took a step forward and stood in front of Lu Qingming. That was his only protection. The willow tree waved his hand and signaled the middle-aged bodyguard to go away. "Uncle Ming, get out of the way," Lu Qingming said. "If he wants to kill me, you can't stop him." The middle-aged bodyguard's face was full of unwillingness, but he could only step aside and let the willow tree pass. The willow tree stood in front of Lu Qingming and looked at his handsome facial features that were controlled by anger. He smiled and said, "From childhood to adulthood there are so many brothers in the family and the two of us have the best relationship. To be honest, I don't like you and you just said that you hate me very much. However, we are the two best people in the Lu family, at least we all think so. Therefore we must live together intimately so that the elders have enough confidence in us. How can a person who can't even unite his brothers and family become the heir of the family? I have always thought that I am the heir of the Lu family. At least others also think so. Therefore I want to maintain the demeanor of an heir, and I want to unite all the forces around me that can be united. However, when I found out that you are doing the same thing as me, I began to dislike you from the bottom of my heart. Now do you know why I said that you are stupid? Because you exposed your ambition too early. If you were in your position, what should you do? You should be hostile to me, you should be my enemy everywhere, and at the right time you should stab me with a knife. This is what you should do. This is the attitude that an unwilling competitor should have. I know that there are broad-minded people in this world, but I also know that that person is definitely not you. I don't hate you. The willow tree looked at Lu Qingming and said, I don't have any reason to hate you. Because you are the same as me, a poor climber. When I climbed halfway up the mountain I accidentally fell down. Although it wasn't to the extent of being smashed to pieces, I was riddled with scars. You are my heir. You climbed up the road that I walked, but you were dragged down by me who was unwilling. You are also a poor person, why should I hate you? If you don't hate me, why would you join hands with Fang Yan to deal with me? If you don't hate me, why would you betray me like this? Lu Qingming pointed at Fang Yan who was sitting on the sofa and said, Did you forget how he hurt you? Did you forget how he humiliated you? He scratched your face, broke your legs, threw you down the stairs. If it wasn't hatred, then what reason would make you join hands with him to deal with me? Did you forget what I said just now? Both of us are climbers, but the top of the mountain can only accommodate one person. Therefore we both have to do everything possible to kick our opponents down the mountain. Just like how you secretly ordered the people in the arsenal to assassinate Fang Yan, but deliberately led the clues to me. Don't you also hope that Fang Yan will treat me as his mortal enemy, and then the two of us will fight and I will be completely eliminated by him? That way no one will stand in front of you anymore, right? Yes, you did a good job and Fang Yan did put the focus of suspicion on me. However, have you ever thought that there is a fatal flaw in your plan? That flaw is me. You want to tell everyone that this matter was done by me and Fang Yan also suspects that I did it, but I know that I didn't do it. I have nothing to do with the arsenal. In this way you will easily be exposed. Moreover, you thought that even if I guessed the truth there is nothing I can do because Fang Yan and I are mortal enemies. No matter what, I will not run to Fang Yan and tell him that this matter wasn't done by me. Lu Qingming sneered and said, In the end I underestimated your shamelessness and cowardice. I really didn't think that you would run to cooperate with Fang Yan. Anyone who has suffered such humiliation and injury would not do such a thing in the face of their enemy, right? So this is where you are inferior to me. Lu Shu said. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Yesterday's enemy becomes today's friend. This is something that happens every day in the business world. Why do you find it hard to understand? What I find hard to understand is that you would cooperate with a person like Fang Yan. Lu Qingming said. Fang Yan is as cunning as a wolf dog. Aren't you afraid that he will dig a hole to bury you? You worked hard but it was all for naught. Doesn't it sound very sad? Why can't I cooperate with a person like Fang Yan? Lu Shu asked with a smile. If I cooperate with Fang Yan I can get what I want. We are mortal enemies but we can advance and retreat together. If I cooperate with him he will help me regain the position of the Lu family's successor. If I cooperate with you, will you give this position to me? Obviously this is impossible. Because only the two of us are the most direct competitors. So, it will be very difficult for me to leave the winery today. Lu Qingming asked aloud, but his eyes were looking at Fang Yan who was sitting on the sofa and listening to the conversation between the two brothers with a smile. He knew that the decision-maker here today was that man. His brother Lu Shu was only a receptionist. Fang Yan picked up a cotton swab from the table and picked his ear, then said, Don't ask me about this kind of thing, I'm not interested in other people's family business. But I'm a narrow-minded person, no matter who hurts me they won't be able to laugh it off. Lu Shu reached out his hand, lightly patted Lu Qingming's shoulder, then said, You've led the Lu family to the wrong path. You even naively thought that you've allied with the Jiang family and the Gu family. Don't you know? that you have to listen to the opposite of what they say. They call you brother on the table, then turn around and stomp you to the ground. Their words can't be trusted, they aren't good people. I need a chance. The Lu family also needs to make a new choice. All sacrifices are worth it. Lu Shu stretched out his arms and embraced Lu Qingming. He gently patted Lu Qingming's shoulder and said, "Thank you, my good brother." Lu Shu's actions were very kind and his voice was very gentle. It was like an older brother comforting his injured little brother. Their feelings were so sincere, their hug was so touching. No matter who saw them, they would think that this was a pair of brothers who had a very good relationship. Lu Qingming's head softly rested on Lu Shu's shoulder, his eyes were wide open and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. He had a lot of unwillingness, but even more than that, he felt pain in his heart. There was a shining knife stuck in his chest. Chapter 288. There are many dark and damp corners in this world. If your heart is in full bloom, the darkness will always exist in places you can't see. Lu Qingming died. He died in the hands of his brother. That sharp knife stopped in a very good position, piercing his heart. Lu Qingming's body was lying on the shoulder of the willow tree, his face full of unwillingness and disbelief. But who was willing to listen to his grievances and complaints? "You madman, you can even kill your own brother." Uncle Ming pointed at the willow tree and roared. He was an elder of the Lu family, responsible for protecting Lu Qingming for many years. It wasn't that he hadn't heard of brothers being castrated, but when he saw it with his own eyes, he still found it hard to accept. The willow tree expressionlessly looked at Uncle Ming, his eyes full of sadness. "Uncle Ming, you don't understand. When a person has to force himself, betray morality and his own heart, that kind of state of mind really makes people uncomfortable." He waved his hand and a man in black behind him rushed straight towards Uncle Ming. Uncle Ming didn't have time to say another word and he was already fighting with the man in black. The willow tree picked up Lu Qingming and walked step by step towards the sofa. He put Lu Qingming's body, or rather corpse, on the sofa and then sat next to Fang Yan. Fang Yan sat on the far left and Lu Qingming sat on the far right. He sat in the middle of the two. This way, from a distance, it looked like three men sitting side by side watching a wonderful play in the living room. Fang Yan glanced at Lu Qingming and helplessly said, "Don't be like this, okay? You're making me very uncomfortable. You killed your cousin, which proves the fact that you're a scumbag and a beast. Now that he's dead, what's the meaning of carrying him to the sofa? This can't atone for your sins, and it also adds another charge of being a hypocrite. At least that's what I think in my heart. I'm a bad person but not a beast. Bad people also feel guilty, it's just that you don't want to believe it," the willow tree said. He felt guilty, so he gave Lu Qingming the least amount of respect. When he was sitting, he didn't allow Lu Qingming to lie on the ground. At any time he could be trampled by the two guys who were fighting. "So what if I feel guilty? Saying sorry while stabbing me? If I meet such a bad guy, I'll just kill him with one slap," Fang Yan said coldly. He turned to look at the willow tree and smiled amiably again, saying, "Of course you are an exception." Who was Lu Qingming? He was the person in charge of an evil organization like the Arsenal. He had repeatedly dispatched killers to assassinate innocent people and harm teachers. Do you have any idea what you just did? You're the hero of the people, getting rid of evil for the people. At least you're my hero. Fang Yan patted Lu Shu's shoulder and said, "Not everyone can put righteousness before family. People who could do this were definitely not good people. My condolences." The willow tree said nothing. He knew that Fang Yan was mocking him, and he also knew that when he stabbed his brother to death, Fang Yan's guard against him immediately rose by hundreds or even thousands of levels. He even knew that if he didn't do it, Fang Yan would personally kill Lu Qingming. Since Fang Yan knew that he was colluding with the Arsenal, he would certainly not let him walk out of this winery alive. However, this matter had to be done by him. Fang Yan would also force him to do it. This was a bargaining chip for cooperation. If he wanted to gain Fang Yan's trust and make them close, he had to do this. There was no other candidate, only his brother. Not everyone's sacrifice was meaningful, and not everyone was qualified to sacrifice for a great ideal and goal. Most people died in vain. Fang Yan was a considerate man. He didn't entangle with Lu Shu on this issue. That would be like cutting the flesh on someone else's chest and then sprinkling salt. He looked at the man in black in the middle of the living room and said, "Is he Qin Pu's disciple?" Qin Pu was Lu Shu's cart pusher. In order to protect Lu Shu at the Blue Mountain Club, his bones were crushed by Fang Yan. He never thought that that night would be an opportunity. It was an opportunity for his master and Fang Yan to come into contact. It was unknown whether it was a hint from a sentence or a look, but the two of them actually came together and teamed up to plot against Lu Qingming, who was insufferably arrogant at the Blue Mountain Club at that time. It wasn't easy for fools to survive in this world. He's called Wang Dong. Qin Pu was destroyed, so I recommended him to work by my side. He knows that master was destroyed by you, so he always wanted to find you for revenge. Lu Shu said. I don't have anyone I can use right now. Leave him to me. Fang Yan nodded with a smile and said, I can see the hatred in his eyes. However, I won't kill him just because he looked at me angrily. I can't do such a thing. Of course you'd better greet him. Don't think about plotting against me. I only need to find out about this once and I'll have enough reasons to get rid of him. He's not stupid. He should know what to choose. Lu Shu said. If he wants to die, then it's fine if we don't cherish him. Bang. Wang Dong punched Uncle Ming's chest. When Uncle Ming's lower body was unstable and he was pushed back, Wang Dong pounced on him and wrapped his arms around his neck. Crack. Uncle Ming's body softly fell to the ground and he didn't move anymore. Lu Qingming was dead and Uncle Ming was also dead. There was no evidence in this matter, so Lu Shu had enough space to act. Fang Yan stood up and said, What a sin. My body is stained with so much killing intent. I need to go back and take a bath. The door opened and closed and Fang Yan's figure quickly disappeared. Wang Dong walked to Lu Shu's side and said unhappily, You're letting him go just like that? So what? Lu Shu raised his head and asked. Keep him here. He knows too many of our secrets. I'm afraid he'll betray young master. I also want to keep him here. Lu Shu sighed softly. Even if all of your corpses were piled in front of him, he still wouldn't stay. You don't know how terrifying he is. Lu Shu put on the wolf mask on the sofa and said in a low voice, I know. Grandma was cooking in the kitchen. Grandma went to the market to buy hairy crabs and all kinds of precious seafood because her grandson and Lu Chaoga had come. Of course it was mainly because of Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga didn't have the image of a headmistress or a strong woman with billions of assets. She wore an apron around her neck and rolled up her sleeves to personally prepare the ingredients. Fang Yan was called to the study by Grandpa. Whenever Grandpa called Fang Yan to the study for a talk, it wouldn't be anything good. Therefore Fang Yan was already mentally prepared. As expected, Grandpa Qin Wang scolded him as soon as he entered the room. What have you been doing recently? You're not teaching properly and you're always on leave. What kind of behavior is this? This is a serious dereliction of duty. Do you know how many days of leave you've taken this semester? Do you know how many days of classes you've had in a month? When I first introduced you to Rosefinch to teach, it wasn't for you to be lazy and slack off. A teacher should be with his students and pass on his knowledge to them. The students don't see you all day. How can they be influenced by you? How can they learn from you? If I were still the headmaster of Rosefinch, I would have fired an incompetent teacher like you long ago. And what's with the bruises on your face? You're a good school teacher and a high-level intellectual. Why do you walk around the campus with a bruised face all day? Do you know what a bad example your behavior is giving to the students? Even a teacher gets into a fight with someone. Grandpa, I accidentally bumped. Bumped? How did you end up like this? The scratches on your face were also caused by the collision? Show me one on the spot. If you can do it, I'll go against my conscience and believe your nonsense. Qin Wang was furious. He wanted to press this kid to the ground and smash his head with the inkstone on the table. A good high school teacher going out to fight and kill all day. How uncivilized is that? Fang Yan stood there awkwardly. He tried his best to squeeze out a smile and said, Grandpa, don't be angry. I just said a joke to liven up the atmosphere. The bruises on my face are from someone beating me up, but I didn't lose out. I still beat him in the end. Seeing that Qin Wang was about to explode again, Fang Yan hurriedly explained, The one who challenged me was an East Asian. He's a famous East Asian swordsman. People call him the East Asian sword god. Civil officials aren't greedy and military generals don't care about death. He can definitely win the respect of all the countries in the world. I like literature, so I became a teacher and impart my knowledge to others. I practice martial arts, so I need to defend against foreign enemies and accept challenges. Grandpa said that I lack spirit last time. I've seriously thought about this problem and I also feel that I lack spirit. A man can't stand without a soul. My words are my promise and my soul is that I will never back down. I hope I can live and there's a high chance that I will die. However, as long as I have a breath left in me, I will never let them take a step forward or win a battle. I want to smash their arrogance, I want to smash their confidence and ambition. I want to break their faces and break their teeth so that they can't be a wolf that eats meat but a dog that eats shit. This is my ideal, this is my spirit. Lu Gong was stunned on the spot. He stared at his young grandson for a long time before he finally reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He said, "Your words are crude but your logic is not." Chapter 289. Seeing Lu Gong take Fang Yan upstairs, her grandmother poked Lu Chaoga, who was processing the crabs, and said in a low voice, "Chaoga, go upstairs and have a look." Lu Chaoga looked at her grandmother in confusion and asked, "Grandma, what should I look at?" Her grandmother looked worried and said angrily, "The old man has been working in education all his life. He's retired for so many years, but he still can't change his bad habit of scolding people." He had always hoped that Fang Yan could be engaged in education or academic research. In the end, Fang Yan wholeheartedly went to learn Tai Chi from the Fang family. This matter had almost become a sore point for the old man. Several times when he went to bed at night, he sighed and said that a good seedling had been ruined. Yesterday, Headmaster Zhang Xiaofeng came to visit, and the old man asked about Fang Yan's work. Headmaster Zhang said that Fang Yan hadn't been in good health recently and had asked for sick leave. The old man was scared and was going to take me to see Fang Yan. But today I saw the boy's face full of injuries. What kind of illness could it be? He must have had a fight with someone again. The old man was so angry that he dragged Fang Yan upstairs to the study to teach him a lesson. The old lady glanced at the second floor and said, "The old man has a habit of scolding people in the study. A few years ago he scolded Fang Yan so much that he didn't dare to step through our door. Go and have a look. Tell them to go downstairs for dinner." Even if the old man was angry, he could only hold it in when he saw you. He praised you a lot at home, saying that you were the best educator he had ever seen. In the end, he also went into business. Lu Chaoga really couldn't imagine how Fang Yan looked when he was scolded. With his sharp tongue, who could take advantage of him? However, only an unyielding elder like Lu Gong could make him respect and fear him, right? Lu Chaoga took off her apron and walked upstairs quickly. Since her grandmother was worried, she would go over to help. Before Lu Chaoga could reach the door of the study, she heard Fang Yan's impassioned voice. "Who do they think they are? A sword god from a few small islands dares to come to our great country of Huaxia to challenge us? To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that he was older than me, I wouldn't have fought him at all. It would be embarrassing. If I go, it would be a waste of my talents. If I send Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen, they would be more than enough to defeat him. They have the god of swords, we have the god of despicable. It's a perfect match. But I didn't do that. Why? I have to respect the old and cherish the young. It's all thanks to Grandpa's good education. Otherwise, how could he have the chance to spar with me?" Lu Gong's face darkened again. He said, "I saw that you said a few good words just now, but after a while you're talking nonsense. I have done some research on the Japanese. They are extremely selfish and proud, but they are also very hardworking. If the person who challenged you didn't have any ability, how could he become the sword god that they worship? He's number one in the Japanese, but in our country he's nothing," Fang Yan said stubbornly. Anyway, he didn't have any friendship with the Chiba army, so he didn't have any psychological burden to belittle him. Think about it, if he's really that powerful, why can't he beat me? Lu Gong thought about it seriously and said, "Whether it's learning or practicing martial arts, you can't be arrogant and complacent. I've never seen anyone who could reach the end of learning Hai Wuya." "Grandpa, you're right. That's what I'm thinking," Fang Yan quickly agreed. "After coming back this time, I also realized that I'm not good enough. Although I've been resting at home on sick leave for the past few days, I've never forgotten to read. I've read all the Chinese papers for the past few years. This year's final exam, Class 9 should be able to get a good result." "That's because the children of Class 9 are working hard," Lu Gong said. He looked at the scars on Fang Yan's face and said with concern, Work isn't in a hurry. You should rest when it's time for you to rest. Strike a balance between work and rest. I can't rest without being with the students, Fang Yan said with a sigh. Lu Xiaoge looked at this warm and affectionate scene and felt as if his heart was in a mess. Wasn't grandmother's worry too unnecessary? Lu Gong saw Lu Xiaoge standing at the door and showed a rare smile on his face. Xiaoge, what's up? Grandma asked me to invite you downstairs for dinner, Lu Xiaoge said. Lu Gong nodded and said, I'll go downstairs now. After that he walked out of the study first. Fang Yan walked to Lu Xiaoge's side and asked with a smile, Grandma is worried that I'll be scolded by Grandpa, right? Seems like Grandma still doesn't know you well enough, Lu Xiaoge said. The more you go through, the more experience you have, Fang Yan said with a smile. Lu Xiaoge looked at Fang Yan and said, I've accepted Lon Mountain Valley's conditions. That's your problem, Fang Yan said. He rarely got involved in Chao Yan's matters, but Fang Yan was the one who initiated the cooperation with Lon Mountain Valley. With Lu Shu as a spy and Lon Mountain Valley as a pawn, if the other families wanted to take advantage of them, they would have to go through these two hurdles first. That's Chao Yan's problem, Lu Xiaoge said. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, Let's go downstairs for dinner. Dinner isn't ready yet. Zhangxia Mountain, the mountain where the clouds fall. In winter, Zhangxia Mountain was a bit lonely, the mountain wind howled and the dried leaves fluttered, but it also had a different feeling to it. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were a bit excited to be back at Zhangxia Mountain. Jiang Qin pointed at a cliff and said, Mr. Fang saved us from there. If it weren't for Mr. Fang, those bad guys would definitely still be chasing us. I wonder what happened to them in the end. Bad guys naturally have to be punished, Zhang Dekai said with a smile. He was the righteous police officer who helped deal with the 3 scammers last time. This summer he brought a crew to Zhangxia Mountain to film, so he led the team to guard the place. We won't let them off just because they're of different nationalities. Jiang Qin smiled sweetly and said, Thank you, Uncle Zhang. Zhang Dekai waved his hand and said, This is what we should do. The music video director was called Song Go, a very influential figure in the film industry. He had filmed for many big names both at home and abroad. Everyone respectfully called him Brother Song. Brother Song found it hard to understand the importance Xia Xia placed on Fang Yan. If the top star in the country wanted to find a Tai Chi master to film a music video, shouldn't those Tai Chi masters rush up crying and hugging his thighs? If they could get even a little bit of a relationship with Xia Xia, wouldn't they be famous? Once they entered the scene, they wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of their lives. Everyone knew this very well. In order to take care of this Fang Yan, Xia Xia actually brought the whole group to Huaqing to film. Didn't she know that the trip, food and accommodation for such a large group of people would require a lot of money? Brother Song's main dissatisfaction with Fang Yan was that he didn't receive enough respect. For a famous director like him, the actors he needed should have traveled all the way to meet him. How could he let him move to Huaqing? He thought that Fang Yan was more famous than him, which made him feel that they didn't treat him as a famous person in Xia Xia. The staff were setting the scene. Brother Song pulled Fang Yan aside and told him about the things he needed to pay attention to during the shooting. He said, You have no shooting experience before and you don't know any shooting techniques. So I don't expect you to cater to my camera. Just do what you are most familiar with. The focus of this music video is on you. You just need to do Tai Chi well and show the essence of our Tai Chi culture. Do you understand? Don't be flashy, just show the essence. You have to make people feel cool, gorgeous and beautiful at first glance. Fang Yan patiently waited for him to finish and said, Director Song, the essence of Tai Chi is not cool and gorgeous, but the deep meaning it shows when yin and yang blend. It is in line with the way of heaven, the way of humanity, and the way of nature. From these simple movements, you can get great relief and freedom. Brother Song was angry and said angrily, Are you the director or am I the director? Do you understand the language of the camera? Do you know what it means to present in front of the camera? As long as I point the camera at you, you have to give me the best posture and the most attractive movements. You stand there like a mummy. Who wants to look at you? Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, Director Song, you still have some misunderstandings about Tai Chi Tai Chi. Song Gu waved her hand impatiently and said, It's not that I have a misunderstanding about Tai Chi, it's that you don't understand our director and the camera at all. Okay, you don't have to say anymore. Song-gu walked up to Xiaji, who was putting on makeup, and said, Xiaji, I want to discuss something with you. This actor is not good. I don't think he is suitable to be the male lead of our music video. I know you love this song, and I also know how important this music video is to you. In any case, we can't let this kind of idiot ruin all our efforts. Xiaji waved his hand and signaled the makeup artist to stop for a while. He looked at Song-gu with a gentle and serious look and said with a smile, I think he is very intelligent and has a very deep understanding of Tai Chi. Teacher Song, can't you let him try it? I think that when you really see him play Tai Chi, you will have a new understanding of him. Summer, this is your work and it is also my work. I hope there are no flaws in our work. Don't you want a Tai Chi master? Leave this matter to me. I will make a call and there will be dozens of Tai Chi masters for us to use. Song-gu said stubbornly. We have to change this person. Xiaji looked at Song-gu and said, okay. Then let's change people. Song-gu was overjoyed and said, Xiaji, you agree? I will tell him to get out of here and call someone. Don't think that we can only eat pigs with hair after Butcher Zhang died. Change the director. Xiaji said to the assistant beside him. Chapter 290. The smile on Song-ji's face froze before he could retract it. Replacement? It's not the actors but the director? Song-gu was about to cry. He knew that his feeling was right. They didn't treat him as a big shot at all. They didn't respect him. If they cared a little about his feelings, they would follow his words and replace that *T Tai Chi master. A big shot should have a big shot's temper. He wanted to throw out some harsh words and leave. But he suddenly remembered that there were all kinds of hidden rumors about Summer's identity in the circle. He couldn't say those harsh words no matter what. What was worse was that he couldn't flick the sleeves of his tight leather clothes. No one could stay if he wanted to, and he didn't dare to leave if he wanted to. He stood there in a dilemma, his face extremely embarrassed. What was the relationship between this gigolo and Summer? She hadn't seen Summer get close to any man for so many years. The only one who was close to her, Feng Yuanqing, seemed to be very depressed recently. Did this gigolo catch her eye? Song-gu was a little regretful. Women were irrational when they fell in love. Why should she make things difficult for her lover? Summer's assistant was Zhang Wei. Because he had a good relationship with Feng Yuanqing, he thought that Feng Yuanqing would be able to win the beauty in the end. He didn't expect to bet on the wrong treasure. Feng Yuanqing was kicked thousands of miles away by Summer. He was worried that his relationship with Summer would become estranged, so he had been trying to make up for it recently. It was not auspicious to change the director on the spot. When he heard that Summer wanted to change the director on the spot, he wanted to persuade her, but he was worried that it would make her angry. Because he had been with Summer for many years, he knew that as long as Summer decided on something, few people could change it. He hesitated, but Fang Yan tried to persuade him, it's not that serious. I think Director Song still has some misunderstandings about me and Tai Chi. If I fight on the spot for him to see, he will have a new understanding of us. If it doesn't work, it won't be too late to change the director at that time. Fang Yan spoke and Zhang Wei quickly echoed, Mr. Fang is right. Sensei Song-gu looks at Taiji from the perspective of the camera, while Sensei Fang looks at the problem from the perspective of the depth of Taiji. It's just that everyone's focus is different. We just need to find a common point, which is to be able to show the self-restraint of Taiji and also be able to look good on the camera. Isn't this what we need? Xia Xia looked at Song-gu with a smile on his face and asked, Teacher Song, what do you say? Then let him try, Song-gu said. He thought to himself that they still needed him. It was easy to find actors but not so easy to find a good director. Seeing is believing. I hope he doesn't disappoint. Xia Xia looked at Fang Yan and said, You go through it first and let the two little girls remember the routine. No problem, Fang Yan said. Fang Yan walked to the edge of the cliff and stood in the form of a plum blossom stake. As for the staff behind him who asked in a low voice why they had to walk to the edge of the cliff to play Tai Chi, no one was willing to answer such a stupid question, because no one except Fang Yan knew the answer to this question. Fang Yan took a deep breath and then gently tapped the tip of his right foot. His movement was gentle and comfortable like an arc. Every movement of his was careful, as if he was afraid that his palm would scatter the wind and the soles of his feet would hurt the grass. However, as time went by, his movements gradually accelerated. This kind of acceleration was gradual and would not make you feel abrupt or unnatural. His body was like an arc, like an iron bow, or like a curved willow. He was like a white ape that absorbed the chi of heaven and earth, like insects, fish, flowers, and plants. He was one with everything in the world. Every time he turned around, his body seemed to fall into the abyss. This made everyone enjoy this extreme beauty with their hearts in their throats. However, their worries were superfluous, because no matter how Fang Yan drew a circle or turned around, he stood there as steady as a 1,000-year-old pine tree. Not the slightest bit off, not the slightest bit off. The setting sun was like an egg yolk, revealing a little shy face in the thick white fog. Seeing the commotion over here, a small bird with colorful feathers also flew over and peeked its head out to observe. It was still chirping, looking adorable and cheerful. Fang Yan jumped, and the bird was caught in the palm of his hand. He stretched out his arms and imitated the bird's undulating wings. He knew that as long as he used this stunt, there would be female fans at the scene fainting. The bird stood in the palm of his hand. The bird accumulated strength and Fang Yan released it. The bird lost its strength and Fang Yan used the power of Tai Chi to lift it up. The bird became nervous and its chirping became louder. However, when it found that it was not in any danger and the game was fun, it began to enjoy it. When Fang Yan released his strength, it jumped with all its might. When Fang Yan gathered his strength, it landed steadily. It even turned around and chirped at Fang Yan, telling him to hurry up, you bastard. The man and the bird were having a lot of fun. On the distant mountain ridge, a monk and a Taoist smiled as they evaluated each other. What do you think of this child? The old monk asked. Angry because of the momentum, his momentum is like a rainbow. This child actually has the momentum of indistinguishable yin and yang, the middle-aged Taoist said with an expression of admiration. The universe goes from Wuji to Tai Chi, the process of all things being born. With all things being, there is the sky above our heads and the earth below our feet. The Tao of the world uses the two energies of yin and yang to create all things. Heaven and earth, the sun and moon, thunder and lightning, wind and rain, the four seasons as well as male and female, firm and soft, movement and stillness, all things being born from yin and yang. The old monk's expression was solemn. However, everyone knows that it is precisely because all things have yin and yang, that's why Tai Chi emphasizes the fusion of yin and yang. Extreme yin gives birth to yang, extreme yang gives birth to yin. This child is amazing. At such a young age he can see mountains as mountains and water as water. Even this bird sees him as one of its kind. The heart of Tai Chi has truly become one with all things. The middle-aged Taoist nodded and said, then should we teach him the Tai Chi diagram? The old monk shook his head and said, the Tai Chi diagram is very important. Not only is it a treasure of your Taoism, but it also protects our Hua Xia's dragon soul. Be careful, be cautious. Other than the foundation of martial arts, the quality of one's temperament is even more important. Looking at his appearance and behavior, this child doesn't seem to be an evil person. Furthermore, how could someone who possesses the heart of Tai Chi be bad? Let's see. Fang Yan's body rose into the air again. He personally sent the bird into the sky. Then he lightly patted the bird's head, indicating that it could leave. When Fang Yan landed, the bird actually swooped down again and stood on his shoulder, unwilling to leave. It chirped at Fang Yan's face as if it wanted to talk to him. Everyone on the scene was dumbfounded. Jiang Qin was so excited that he couldn't control himself. He grabbed Yuan Lin's hand and said, Yuan Lin, did you see that? Did you see that? Mr. Fang is really amazing. Yuan Lin didn't feel any pain. Her eyes were shining as she stared at Fang Yan and said, that bird is so cute. Summer was also intoxicated for a moment, but she quickly regained her sobriety. She was engaged in art, so she had no resistance to beautiful things. When Fang Yan played with the bird, it really made people's hearts tremble. It was so beautiful. That's amazing. This person's Tai Chi is so beautiful. Oh my God, I've never seen anyone play Tai Chi like that. Is this really Tai Chi? He jumped so high just now. Is there a steel wire hanging on his body? I really want to become that bird, then I can play with him. When the staff saw this incredible scene, they all became Fang Yan's die-hard fans. The Tai Chi that Fang Yan presented was the Tai Chi that they had never seen before. It was the most beautiful and ideal Tai Chi in their minds. Sanggu was also stunned. Master, this was a real Tai Chi master. How could there be such a Tai Chi? How could there be such a cool Tai Chi? No, this could no longer be described as cool, but how could a cultured person be so pretentious? You clearly knew that he was pretending, but you still felt that this guy was really awesome. Song-gu kicked the leg of the cameraman next to her and shouted, "Did you take a picture? Did you take a picture just now?" The cameraman didn't have time to take off the cover of the camera lens. He said aggrievedly, "Director, didn't you say to take a look first? Look my ass. Look my ass." Song-gu kicked the cameraman's leg again and again. "Why aren't you afraid? Why aren't you afraid? What else do you want to shoot if not such a scene? I'm so angry, you idiots." Song-gu ran in front of Xiaji and said with a flushed face, "Xiaji, let's not change the person. It's him, he's a master, he can definitely give us the feeling we want. It's him. No one else can do it." "Did I pass?" Fang Yan asked with a smile. "Yes," Song-gu said. "You don't want to change the person?" Fang Yan asked again. "No." Song-gu waved her hand and said, "Well, brother Fang, I was a little biased against you just now. Don't be angry, that thing is over, let's not take it to heart, what do you think?" "I'm not a stingy man, how can I take such a small thing to heart?" Fang Yan said. "That's great. Let's start?" "Start what?" Fang Yan asked. He turned to look at Xiaji and said, "My Tai Chi has been recognized by everyone, now we can change the director." Song-gu sat on the ground so angry that her whole body was trembling. In the forest behind the crew, the middle-aged Taoist priest said to the old monk with an embarrassed face, "Let's watch again, let's watch again." The old monk laughed. Chapter 291. You insult me once and then apologize to me. It's not fair at all. You insult me once and I'll insult you once. That's fair. Teacher Fang Huohua values fairness the most. Song-gu got up from the ground, stared at Fang Yan fiercely and said, "Do you want to play with me? Isn't your entertainment circle too dark?" Fang Yan said angrily. "You dare to make such a rude request to me in public?" Fang Yan looked at Xiaji with a strange look as if saying, "The noble circle is really messy." Xiaji looked at Song-gu and said, "Teacher Song, is there no problem in confirming the candidate?" "No problem." Song-gu dared to be ruthless to Fang Yan, but did not dare to say a harsh word to Xiaji. He and Fang Yan did not have a subordinate relationship. Fang Yan was a school teacher and it would not affect his life. He said a harsh word to Xiaji and Xiaji was only angry for a while. However, if Xiaji said a harsh word to him, he would have bad luck for the rest of his life, and he was afraid that his career would end early. "Then be more attentive," Xiaji said. "Let go of some unnecessary prejudice and you will find that teacher Fang Yan is a very easy person to get along with." "I will." Song-gu gritted her teeth and said. He thought, is this guy really an easy person to get along with? He went around in such a big circle just to slap you in the face. How can such a narrow-minded person be called easy to get along with? Song-gu walked in front of Fang Yan, took the initiative to reach out and said, "Mr. Fang, please give me a lot of advice." "You're welcome." Fang Yan held Song-ji's hand and said, "I don't understand camera language, so I have to trouble Director Song to make me look as handsome as possible. Mr. Fang is an idol. Director Song is flattering me. I'm quite popular with students at school." Xiaji and many staff members looked at them with black lines on their faces. Everyone discussed for a while. Song-gu once again explained some shooting details, and the MV shooting officially began. The shooting this time was mainly divided into two parts. The first part was Fang Yan practicing Tai Chi alone to show the rigidity of Tai Chi. The other part was Xia Xia bringing Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, the two little beauties, to perform the softness of Tai Chi in black Tai Chi clothes. Two different scenes, maybe even two different space-time. Fang Yan's white clothes fluttered in the wind. He looked like an ancient Taiji youth. The scene of Tai Chi with Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin would constantly switch. But it was a modern Tai Chi then. Hardness and gentleness complemented each other and the four of them began to fuse. Fang Yan stood at the edge of the cliff, the dragon head. Xia Xia, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin followed behind him and did the same thing. Their movements were neat and the scene was beautiful. Because it was already late when the crew went up the mountain, they first shot some scenes of Fang Yan practicing Tai Chi at the edge of the cliff in the mountain breeze and white fog. Then using the same scene, Xia Xia took Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin up and also did a round of Tai Chi. Xia Xia originally had a good foundation in Tai Chi, but it didn't have any actual combat effect. It was only for strengthening the body. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were still very unfamiliar with Tai Chi. They just felt that Fang Yan was handsome and good-looking. In the past 2 days, Fang Yan gave them some simple training. They only needed to follow behind Xia Xia or Fang Yan. Simply put, the two of them were two little flower vases in the MV. Everyone only needed to think that the two of them were good-looking. In the evening, the crew members settled in the Xia Hotel, which was the only quasi-5-star hotel on Xia Mountain. Last time, Fang Yan brought his students up the mountain for the night, but he didn't bring them to stay in such a hotel. Some students had strong self-esteem, so he had to carefully protect them. After dinner, Fang Yan and Xia Xia drank tea and chatted in the Tingfeng tea house of the hotel. The Xia Hotel was built against the mountain, and the Tingfeng tea house was on the edge of the cliff. Sitting in the tea house and drinking tea, the dark Grand Canyon came into view. In autumn, the valley was full of red maple leaves, which made people feel relaxed and happy. But in winter, when there were no stars or moon in the sky, only the whistling of the wind could be heard. That was how the Tingfeng tea house got its name. Fang Yan was busy making tea. The golden pu-er tea soup was very tempting. He said, "Do you want to replace Song Gu?" Xia Xia's eyes stayed on the hand that Fang Yan was using to make tea. He felt that the posture of Fang Yan making tea was very beautiful and skillful. She liked Huaxia culture and tea, but no matter how expensive the tea house was, how famous the tea made by the tea artist, she always felt that there was a lack of taste. Immortal taste. Yes, it was immortal taste. Pure heart and few desires, neither fast nor slow. No flattery, no flattery, no filth. This was immortal taste. Unfortunately, few people could do it. I knew Song Gu 10 years ago and all my music videos were made by him. At that time he was just a very talented young man. Xia Xia explained softly. Later on, as his fame grew, people's nature also changed. Now he is the kind of person I don't like the most. If I don't stand up for you, he will insist on replacing you and then use his own people. Xia Xia looked at Fang Yan and said, "I can tolerate people around me making some small mistakes in the field of life, but I will never allow them to criticize my work. This is my work. He wanted to try to control you, so he used me as an experiment. In the end, you slapped him back." Fang Yan said with a smile. "This slap is fierce enough. I don't slap people," Xia Xia said. "If he still doesn't know how to restrain himself, then cut off his hands and feet. Isn't this too domineering?" Fang Yan's eyes widened. A scene appeared in his mind. Xia Xia, with disheveled hair, was holding a kitchen knife and chopping off Song Ji's hands and feet. Then he stood there and laughed, letting Song Gu lie on the ground and scream miserably. "What are you thinking?" Xia Xia said angrily. "I mean, cut off his career line. I can make him call the wind and rain, and I can also make it difficult for him to move an inch." Why does this sound like something said by a gang leader? Xia Xia sighed softly and said, "You don't know the darkness and dirtiness of the entertainment circle." Fang Yan asked worriedly, "Will Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin be okay? If they can't resist the temptation, I can't do anything. But if someone wants to hurt them, I will cut off his hands and feet. This time I will really cut off his hands and feet." Xia Xia said coldly. "Those two little girls are quite lucky. With a big backer like you." Fang Yan said with a smile. "I'm not their backer. I'm their sister and friend. I want to take them with me to do something." Xia Xia said. "Women can also change the world. Or rather, change the world's perception of us. I've always believed that." "I also believe that," Fang Yan said. "A woman's greatest dream was to promote Huaxia culture to the world, not to watch other people's culture invade." Fang Yan felt that this kind of woman was as great as him. Fang Yan raised his teacup and said, "A toast to you." "For what?" "For our noble sentiments," Fang Yan said. Xia Xia laughed loudly and said, "Fang Yan, every time I chat with you I'm very happy. But you can't like me. There are too many people who like me." Fang Yan said. "When there are so many people, I don't know how to choose. Who asked me to be a Libra? It's a bit too much, I won't go join in the fun," Xia Xia said with a hint. Fang Yan laughed dryly and didn't speak. Some things were better not said. Xia Xia looked at the antique decorations in the tea house and said, "The owner of the tea house must be a very elegant person. It's not called the Star-Gazing Tea House. It's not called the Maple Appreciation Tea House. It's called the Wind Listening Tea House." In his heart, even listening to the wind is a romantic thing. Then stargazing and maple appreciation are naturally not inferior. From the low place to see the rolling clouds, from the wet place to see the ninth heaven thunder. This person is very kind. Fang Yen nodded and said, it's just that the psychology of the nouveau riche is serious. Is there a need to put so many precious wood and antiques all over the house? It's like he's afraid that others don't know he's rich. What Sir said is very true. It's us who have fallen into the cliché. A middle-aged Taoist walked over with an incense burner and a smile. He walked to the table occupied by Fang Yen and Xia Xia and stopped. He put the incense burner on the table and said, honored guests have come to visit. I'll give you a pot of tree incense. Please don't refuse. Fang Yen took a sniff. It was authentic ambergris. Moreover, the quality was higher than the ambergris he collected and the smell was also purer. Fang Yen stared at the middle-aged Taoist warily and said, who are you? Why did you give us tree incense? You didn't poison it, did you? Meeting by chance is also fate. Does Sir not believe in fate? Do you think I'm an idiot? Giving someone tens of thousands of yuan worth of ambergris incense when you meet by chance? Why didn't you give it to the two fatso in the corner? Why didn't you give it to the couple in the 30-degree position? Why did you give it to us? Sir and I are fated, Fang Yen interrupted the Taoist and pointed at Xia Xia. You're not thinking of hitting on her, are you? I'm a monk, I don't get close to women. Then you want us to buy your amulet. Fang Yen was extremely angry. Every time I walk on the street, I'll meet monks wearing Taoist robes who pull me to buy amulets. They say that they're fated with me at first glance. Only a fool would believe that. Tell me, how much is your amulet worth? Seeing that you gave us tree incense, we're willing to be cheated by you this time. But let me make it clear in advance, I won't pay more than 100 yuan. The middle-aged Taoist's facial muscles twitched. His body swayed and looked like he was about to fall. Chapter 292. Tianjizi felt very strange. According to his cultivation, it was impossible for him to have such a hysterical state. Was he going to suffer a heavenly tribulation? However, it was not enough to suffer a heavenly tribulation. If the white-browed monk suffered a heavenly tribulation, how could he not be punished by the heavens? That was because he was angry. Angry. The word angry had not been in Tianjizi's emotional world for many years. He had been cultivating all his life, calm and peaceful, and his thoughts were clear. He did not fight for anything and rarely had conflicts with others. There were very few things in this world that could touch his spirit mirror Dao heart. He cultivated and nourished qi, but the qi he cultivated and nourished was qi activity. It was the body's nutrition and energy, and it was the driving force for him to seek the Dao and finally break through the void. Qi could cut hair and wash marrow, strengthen the body and make people achieve immortality. However, angry, he tried hard to think about it, but he really forgot when and why he was angry last time. Why could this young man make him so angry when he opened his mouth? After thinking about it, Tianjizi's eyes instantly lit up. Dao fate. Because they were fated, he was able to break through his own heart. Otherwise, so many people could not break through, but he could make him lose control of his emotions. Tianjizi looked at Fang Yen with even more scorching eyes, which startled Fang Yen. He said, you are not here to flirt with her, and you are not here to sell talismans. You want to flirt with me? The smile on Tianjizi's face instantly froze. His mouth slanted and his eyes protruded, and his body trembled even more violently. He was sure that he was going to suffer a heavenly tribulation. Otherwise, why did he feel like he was being struck by lightning? However, didn't the long-eyebrowed monk say that when he encountered the heavenly tribulation, he would experience 9 divine thunders? Why did he only experience 5? Was it because his cultivation was too low, or that monks were more unlucky than Taoists? Xiaji held back his laughter, kicked Fang Yen under the low table, looked at Tianjizi and said, what can I do for you, Zhenren? Tianjizi chanted the Laozi Qingyo incantation several times, and with great difficulty he suppressed the murderous intent in his heart. He bowed to Xia Xia with one hand and said, this humble Taoist feels that I have fate with this little friend, so I came here to have a chat. Tianjizi looked at Fang Yen and said, I'm not a lecherous person, nor am I someone who sells talismans for profit. I just want to have a chat with you. I don't have any evil intentions, nor do I have any malicious intent. Fang Yan looked at Tianjizi doubtfully and asked, "What do you want to talk to me about?" Tianjizi pointed to the chair next to the low table and said, "May I have a seat?" "Sit," Fang Yan said. He was a little curious about this Taoist priest. Tianjizi sat down on the side of the low table, looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Little friend, are you a martial artist?" "I know how to use Tai Chi," Fang Yan said. He looked at the Taoist priest's sitting posture and said, "From the outside, you don't seem to know any martial arts at all, but when you pulled out the chair I felt a hidden movement in your chi which made me wary. This chair is made of sour pear wood and weighs dozens of kilograms. You lifted it up as if you were grabbing a handful of cotton wool. Seems that you are also an expert." Xia Xia looked at the middle-aged Taoist priest doubtfully, thinking this is also a martial arts expert? These days there are experts everywhere. In the blink of an eye, several of them have slipped away from under your nose. The Taoist priest took the tea that Xia Xia poured for him and said with a smile, "I can't be considered an expert. I just used decades of martial arts to train my strength." "Well said," Fang Yan sincerely praised. "In the future, if others say that I'm an expert, can you lend me that sentence?" Tianjizi laughed and said, "You can take it. But I think that what you said just now, know how to use Tai Chi, is more effective. Experts who have the heart of Tai Chi, the number of Huaxias in Nuada can be counted on one's fingers. If this is only 2 hands of Tai Chi, what about the other practitioners?" Fang Yan's eyes became sharp and said, "You know me? I was lucky to be at the scene of the Battle of One Sword Peak." Tianjizi looked into Fang Yan's eyes and said. Fang Yan was shocked and said, "I didn't feel your existence." Not only Fang Yan didn't feel it, but the Ministry of War also didn't feel it. Because at that time the Ministry of War said that there were only 3 people present who could fight with him. After this battle he must visit them one by one. Fang Yan learned from Lei Feng's good example and helped him point out who the 3 experts were, but this middle-aged Taoist priest was not included. Many people thought that only those who were good at fighting were real warriors. Of course this was not wrong. However, being good at hiding was also a unique skill. The enemy was already at your door but you still didn't know he was there. Just thinking about it made people's scalps tingle and their backs turn cold. "My little friend, don't panic," Tianjizi said, waving his hand. "When I hide in the wind, I become the wind. When I hide in the forest, I become a tree, a flower, and a grass. When the wind comes, I move, and when insects come, I don't panic. They and I are one. My little friend, your heart of Tai Chi has reached a higher level and even the birds are willing to play with you. Isn't it the same? There are 3,000 ways in the world, but in the end they all lead to the same destination. There is no difference between you and me." Fang Yan's hostility toward this Taoist priest deepened. This old guy followed him to the One Sword Peak to watch the battle between him and the Ministry of War, and he also saw the scene of him playing with the birds today. Was he a stalker? Fang Yan looked at the Taoist priest and asked, "How should I address you?" "My Taoist name is Tianjizi," the middle-aged Taoist priest said. "Tianjizi, why do you always follow me? I was fighting with the Japanese sword god and you followed me. I caught a bird to play with and you also peeped behind my butt. What do you want? Now that you have come to me, you must be ready to lay your cards on the table, right?" "My little friend, you are very vigilant." "Nonsense. 9 out of 10 Taoist priests these days are liars and one is a bastard. He always grabs your hand and says that you will suffer a bloody disaster. There were several times when I wanted to make him suffer a bloody disaster. He sells talismans and I only lose some money. You don't even sell talismans, which means that what you are after is bigger. Who knows what I will lose? Some things are not things to give but things to gain. If you give, but if you don't give, how can you gain?" Tianjizi said. "My little friend, can you tell me why you learn martial arts?" "So that others can't bully me," Fang Yan said. After thinking for a while he added, "When I want to bully others, I don't worry that they will hit me." "If that's the case, then why did you risk your life to accept the challenge from Chiba?" Tianjizi asked with a smile. "From what I saw and thought, you didn't have any confidence that you could win against that Japanese swordsman, right? You didn't give even an inch because you were proud and hot-blooded. Am I right? He took the initiative to challenge me and bullied me. How could I cower and run away? The worst outcome would be death. If I died, thousands of Fang Yans would stand up and kill him. No matter what, I wouldn't suffer too much." Fang Yan said. Death is good. In order to uphold the dignity of a martial artist and protect the orthodox martial arts of Huaxia, you were willing to fight to the death with the Japanese sword god even though you knew that you were not as strong as him. Just this alone makes you stand out among your peers. Actually, I thought of asking for help but they didn't come. You are frank and direct and you have the courage to admit to others that you are timid and cowardly. It's human nature to look for a solution when you encounter difficulties, but in the end, you relied on your own courage and ability to defeat your opponent. I am not timid and cowardly for a moment. I have always been timid and cowardly. Not only do I have that kind of thought but I also put it into action. If I invited someone over, it would be him fighting the Japanese sword god, and I would be eating melon seeds and chatting on the side. You are a chivalrous person. Why did you purposely make yourself look so bad? Tianjizi looked at Fang Yan and asked. Worried that people will criticize you and make fun of you? Fang Yan sighed softly and said, You are so shameless to praise me. Tell me, what do you want? Tianjizi's expression was solemn and his eyes were clear. His body was like a sleeping tiger or a coiled dragon, emitting a calm and peaceful aura. Ambergris smoke lingered in the air, and the faint fragrance was refreshing, making one's body completely relax and mind travel to the heavenly realm. This guy is good at showing off. Fang Yan thought. Tianjizi looked at Fang Yan and said in a compassionate tone, The wind is strong, the tide is surging. The flood dragon totem, the fire phoenix nirvana. The dragon soul of Huaxia, the glory is inextinguishable. The spirit of martial arts, the sun and the moon shine together. Thieves and evildoers covet from all directions, we should rise up and fight against them, using our hearts to punish them. The ancients said, Establish a heart for the heaven and earth, establish a life for the people, inherit the lost knowledge for the saints and establish peace for the world. The revival of China and the protection of the dragon soul, we have no other responsibility. Fang Yan was stunned by these majestic words and said, What should I do? Do you know the Tai Chi diagram? Tai Chi diagram? Yes. Fang Yan nodded. It is said that it was passed down by the Song dynasty Taoist Chen Tuan, and its original name is the Wuji diagram. According to historical records, Chen Tuan once passed down the pre-celestial diagram, Tai Chi diagram, river diagram and Luo Shu to his student Zhong Feng, who in turn passed them down to Mu Xiu, Li Zhe and others. Later Mu Xiu passed down the Tai Chi diagram to Zhou Dunyi. The Tai Chi diagram we see now was passed down by Zhou Dunyi. I have one hanging on the wall in my room. I look at it several times a day. What's wrong? Tianjizi smiled soundlessly and said, The painting of Tai Chi I am talking about is not the kind that can be bought on the street, but the real treasure of Taoism, the painting of Tai Chi, one of the 4 great books of Huaxiao, along with the painting of the river, the book of Luo and the innate painting. Fang Yan stared at Tianjizi with his eyes wide open and asked, Why are you telling me this? I want to choose a fated person to pass down the Tai Chi diagram to, and let him protect our dragon soul of Huaxia. Then go find him. Fang Yan said. Why are you telling me this? Chapter 293. As an innocent bystander, Xia Xia was worried that Tianjizi might slap Fang Yan to death at any time. Xia Xia thought, if I were this Taoist priest I would also slap Fang Yan to death. This is too much. Sure enough, Tianjizi raised his wrist. His palm kept shaking but the tea in the cup didn't spill at all. Not only that but the steam coming out of the cup suddenly disappeared. It was a strange scene. The steam was boiling a second ago but in an instant the smoke disappeared, the steam dispersed and the hot water turned into cold water. But Tianjizi slammed the cup on the table. The tea didn't break but the sour pearwood table started to shake. Xia Xia was shocked and couldn't help leaning back. She was worried that Tianjizi would not be able to hold back his anger and pour the tea in the cup onto Fang Yan's face. In the end she would be in trouble because the tea was so hot. He did not want to be disfigured. On second thought she realized that masters should not pour tea on each other, pull each other's hair and kick each other's balls. The tea was not cold but frozen. Xia Xia touched it with her finger. It was real ice. Ovo. Xia Xia's eyes, which always gave people a sense of intellectual elegance, suddenly became like this. She couldn't accept and believe such a change. Was this magic? The golden pu'er tea had turned into golden ice cubes. sparkling and translucent under the illumination of the light. It looked very cute. Fang Yan was also shocked. He knew this Taoist priest was a master, but he didn't expect him to be a master of a master. Just by using the move, turning water into ice, it was already amazing. His internal strength cultivation could leave him several streets behind. Tianjizi closed his eyes and muttered something. His lips moved faster and faster, and then he suddenly let out a muffled roar. The shout was not loud, but it was extremely harsh. Xia Xia's face was pale and Fang Yan's ears felt as if they were being pricked by needles. It was very uncomfortable. Not only did Xia Qin and Fang Yan suffer, but the other guests of the Tingfeng tea house were also not spared. When they heard this shout, the faces of those who were discussing turned ugly, the eyes of those who were looking at each other were filled with fear, and the smiles on the faces of those who were chatting and laughing became stiff and ferocious, as if they were discussing how to chop someone up. They all felt as if they had been hit by something, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find the weapon that had hurt them. They all thought it was a panic attack and were focused on doing their own things. However, they were startled by the sudden sound. Therefore, they all pointed at the middle-aged Taoist priest and cursed him. "Why are you shouting in the middle of the night? Don't you have any manners?" This was a more elegant way of scolding. "Old man, you must be tired of living. Do you believe that I won't slap you to death?" This was a more courageous way of cursing. To be honest, Fang Yan was quite looking forward to him coming over to slap the old guy. "Which dog is barking in public? Hurry up and bring it back. Don't run around." This was a curse that brought about one's own destruction. Fang Yan couldn't bear to look in the direction of where he was. Tianjizi paid no attention to the attacks and insults outside. He slowly opened his eyes and his expression became bright and clear again. He had the demeanor of an expert. He looked at Fang Yan and said, "Buddhism pays attention to the fruit of suffering and Taoism pays attention to fate. My young friend Fang Yan, you and I are fated. Otherwise, how could you repeatedly break my Taoist heart with just a few words? Although this curse came from my mouth, it started because of you, so this resentment should also be placed on you." Xiaji helplessly looked at Tianjizi and said, "Spiritual master, Fang Yan also often breaks my peace." Xiaji had the most right to speak about this kind of thing. When she and Fang Yan met for the first time, all kinds of unpleasant things happened. Fang Yan had a kind heart, but he had a venomous tongue. Feng Yuanqing almost died of anger when he met him. "That's also because you are fated." Tianjizi pretended to be profound and said with the face of a charlatan, "If you are not fated, the world is so big and there are so many people. How can only the two of you sit in this Tingfeng tea house and drink tea and listen to the wind?" Xiaji's mouth slightly opened. She felt that what he said was so reasonable that she was actually speechless. Tianjizi's focus was on Fang Yan, so he once again put his gentle and kind eyes on Fang Yan's face and said in a clear voice, "If we are fated, we should cherish the fate. I and my young friend Fang Yan hit it off the moment we met, and I see that you have the heart of Tai Chi, but you are not arrogant and rash. You have a noble character and wisdom like the sea. Therefore, I think my young friend Fang Yan is the most suitable inheritor of the Tai Chi diagram." Fang Yan stared at Tianjizi and said, "You want to give the Tai Chi diagram to me? Not give, its pass." Tianjizi corrected his words. "That was a treasure. Could it be given away? It could only be passed on. Look at what the ancients said. Carry on the sacred arts of the past. They used the word, inherit. For free. For free. You just said that it is the treasure of your Taoism? Indeed. You also said that there is a dragon soul in it? To protect Hua Xia's dragon soul. Are you crazy?" Fang Yan asked with a look of disbelief. "Why don't you hide such a good thing for yourself and give it to an outsider like me? It's good to pass it on to your son and grandson. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if you have been married and had children. It's also good to sell it. If it is really as mysterious as you said, it can definitely be sold for a good price." Tianjizi felt something flowing out of the corner of his mouth. He was too embarrassed to wipe it with his sleeve. He felt that it was too embarrassing. Was this the fated person he had chosen? What kind of F***king monster was this? Could such a person really inherit the Taoist culture and protect Hua Xia's dragon soul from being extinguished? Tianjizi reached out and grabbed the teacup that he had just slammed on the table. The coldness of his palm calmed the anger in his heart a little. He looked at Fang Yan with a serious face and said in a selfless manner, "That is the treasure of Huaxia. It is shared by everyone in Huaxia. How can I keep it for my own selfish reasons? Also, the Tai Chi painting can't be sold. We can't sell our totem and spirit." Fang Yan's face darkened. He said, "You mean that the Tai Chi painting can't be sold or passed on to my son and grandson?" "That's right," Tianjizi said firmly. "This kind of thing was not negotiable. What can I do with it?" "Inherit the Taoist culture and protect Huaxia's dragon soul. If you have a great opportunity, you might be able to decipher the 9 syllables mantra in the Tai Chi painting. I think it will definitely benefit you for the rest of your life. If you give me something, I can't sell it. I can't pass it on to my son or my girlfriend. The only thing I can do with it is to play a word-solving game. In the end, when I'm about to die, I still have to pass it on to someone else. Wait for a new fated person to appear. The Tai Chi painting will naturally have a new inheritance," Tianjizi said. "Am I crazy?" Fang Yan was so angry that his body was trembling. He pointed at Tianjizi's nose and scolded, "What good does this do me? I don't get anything. If you give it to me, I have to give it to someone else. What if I have feelings for it? What if I can't bear to give it to someone else? If that's the case, I might as well not have it in the first place." That's the Tai Chi painting, one of the 4 great books of Huaxia. It's everyone's dream. Tianjizi wanted to try harder. "Whoever wants it can take it," Fang Yan said angrily. "I've heard a lot of stories like this. A monk or a Taoist priest pretending to be mysterious. Or a wretched-looking old man." They pulled a young man passing by and said, "Young man, I see that you have a clear bone structure, an imposing appearance and a root of wisdom. You are a rare martial arts genius. If you concentrate on cultivation, you will become a great person in the future. Come here. I have a book called 18 Dragons Subduing Palms. Whoever believes it is an idiot." "Immortal, are you okay?" Xiaji asked carefully. She felt that the Taoist priest had suffered a great blow tonight. She didn't know if he could bear it. "The timing is not right. The timing is not right," Tianjizi said with infinite regret. "The old monk is right. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see." Tianjizi stood up. When he turned around, he reached out and flicked his sleeves. The tea that had been frozen into ice melted again. Hot steam rolled over. Fang Yan's eyes widened. His mind trembled. He stared at the cup of tea without blinking. He stared at the rolling steam above the cup. He reached out his hand and touched it. The steam really did have heat. It was not a cheap trick on the street. "The dead tree has come back to life," Fang Yan exclaimed. "The dead tree has come back to life." He pushed the chair away and stood up, but the middle-aged Taoist priest was nowhere to be seen. He grabbed Xiaji's shoulder and asked, "Did you see him? Did you see where he went?" "No." Xiaji shook her head. She didn't understand why Fang Yan was so excited all of a sudden. She didn't see him like this even when the boiling hot water turned to ice. "I'm looking at the tea in the cup." Fang Yan went to ask several people, including the waiters of the Tingfeng tea house. However, no one told him where Tianjizi had gone. Fang Yan stood in the Tingfeng tea house and cursed, "Do you have any patience, old man? Do you have any integrity? You said that you will pass the Tai Chi diagram to me. Hurry up and give it to me. Don't you want to take me as your disciple? How can it be so easy to take a disciple? Other people's masters are crying and shouting, hugging their disciples' thighs and begging. If one day doesn't work, they will come 100 times. If one day doesn't work, they will come 100 days. Can't you at least hold on? When I don't agree, don't you know how to slap me?" Fang Yan cried aggrievedly and shouted with red eyes, "Godfather, where are you?" You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.